Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. Yeah, well, look, hey, church can wait. All right. Welcome everyone to the PROLOKAR livestream. It is May 28th, 2024, and unfortunately, church is not in session this evening. We're gonna bring you a very special presentation of myself and one Beazers and one Magesight talking about Dark Souls, talking about games, talking about all types of things live right now. So while church is postponed for this evening, we will be back on Wednesday night for more church time, for more Horse Girl, for more faith build, bringing our faith to the non-believers of Caelid and the lands between as a whole. But for now, we must bow our heads and pray. And pray our mighty Nesus, who is not here in church with us this evening, but will give us strength in our conversation with Magesight and Beazers as we talk about Dark Souls 1 and turn our televisions on and we go right over to our conversation right now. Right now! Alright, and we're live. Hi, it's the PROLOKAR live stream. We're joined here with Beazers and Magesight. If I'm pointing in the right directions, unless I'm on your screen, we're pointing in some other direction. But we're here just to kind of talk a little bit about Dark Souls. I guess Dark Souls 1, since I have not played Dark Souls 2 or 3. But we'll talk about Dark Souls. We'll just kind of talk about our experiences with the game and just kind of go through the conversation that way. I mean, I played Dark Souls for the first time like 3 months ago. And that's not where I met Beazers and Magesight. But I did meet a couple of people through playing Dark Souls my first time. Mage, what about you? When did you start playing Dark Souls?
Well, I have a similar story, I think, to you because you told it on your stream before, where I tried it back. Dark Souls 1, I first tried right after the remaster came out on the PS4. I played it, bounced off of it pretty early. Played Bloodborne because it was free on the PSN network for a while. Did the same thing with Dark Souls 2, and I even bought 3 right when it released. I bought the collector's edition, played it about halfway through, bounced off. I kept bouncing off of them until Elden Ring released, and then kind of really got me into it.
Nice.
I played Dark Souls when it was out on the 360, like when it first came out.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Then I hated that game, and I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna play this anymore. And then I kept playing because I was stubborn, and I ended up liking it a lot.
Mm.
And after that, it was Dark Souls 3, Bloodborne, Elden Ring, the rest. So now I got like platinum trophies and all of them.
Now, didn't you? I thought you started with Demon Souls. Was that it? Am I wrong about that?
Now I started on the first Dark Souls.
Yeah. Okay.
And then I met you on Demon Souls because I had just beaten Demon Souls at that time too.
Mm.
And I was on Twitch. I'm like, let me just look up Demon Souls one, and that's how I met you.
Did you ever play the remake of Demon Souls?
Yeah, it was the remake.
Okay, it was the remake. Okay.
Yeah, I haven't played the original one. I want to though.
Yeah.
PS3.
Yeah, because see, that's the thing. When I played Demon Souls, I played Demon Souls after Elden Ring. Elden Ring was what brought me into FromSoft games. I originally started with Bloodborne, and I hated the game because we were passing the controller back and forth between a bunch of people, and that's not the way to play these games. So Elden Ring brought me in. Then I went back and I played Demon Souls second, and it was the PS5 version. And I think everyone who played Demon Souls recently has been playing it on the remaster, which is a really, really good remaster from what I've heard from other people in the FromSoft community. It's a really faithful remake. But you, Beazers, played Dark Souls 1 on the original 360, where the thing I always heard about it, especially after I've beaten the game, was it dropped to is this correct that it drops to like 15 FPS in certain areas like Blighttown and shit like that?
Oh yeah, Blighttown was terrible. It's like you'd be getting all slow and laggy and everything, and just trying to load everything all at once from just that one area. Yeah, you would have a hell of a time going through that swamp.
I know the first PC port before the remaster, the Prepare to Die edition, was almost exactly like the Xbox 360 PS3 edition, from what I've heard, with the frame rate drops and slipperiness, especially in the crystal caves and stuff like that.
Yeah, that was like basically trying to be the first remaster. They were saying that was. It did the same thing basically.
Yeah, I think it was just a PC port. I could be wrong about that.
One second, I'm just typing to the chat real quick.
Me too.
I don't know. I have a computer.
Real quick while you're typing, Pro, I had wanted to do this with you because I don't know if Bees really fits. It sounds like he does, but Elden Ring is really what brought me back into after bouncing off literally every single Souls game. And it brought me back to a point to where I went back and I beat Demon Souls Remastered on the PS5. And then I came back and you guys saw I finished Dark Souls 1 for the first time on stream. I've been through most of it. So Elden Ring kind of brought me back into Dark Souls after, what has it been, 14 plus years. So I was wanting to take it from that perspective.
Thanks, Claudia. Okay. Sorry about that, Mage. What was that again?
No, just saying that, I wanted to come with it from the perspective of we weren't in the original community that were beating Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3 way back.
Right,
We were
right.
coming into it later. And it's an old game at this point, obviously.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
wanted to see what did we all think about it coming back as old as it is, especially after Elden Ring, because I think, except for maybe Bees, we didn't really beat Dark Souls 1 until after we played through most of Elden Ring, and then we went back, right?
So, my experience, I mean, my experience was like on display for everyone who was in the chat. I played it blind. I try to play it as blind and as going in with no information. As soon as I found something, like if I was grinding a little bit of level or whatever it is outside of stream, I would just stop, leave it for the stream, and come back. The experience that I had, I am going to say it would be tough. Well, I don't know. Dark Souls 1 came out, I think it was in 2000. Is it 2009 or 2012? Bees, you might know better than me. When did it come out? Was it 2011?
2009, I think.
It was a while ago, and I know that like where my headspace was in those days, I would say that I probably would still have liked it, but I would have definitely gotten more frustrated than I did when I played it recently on stream. I think that's because of the remastered edition, which I don't think is the remaster. I think the remastered edition and the Ready to Die edition are the same thing.
No,
I'm not sure. They're not. So what's the difference between the two?
The Ready to Die edition, I think, was just the original PC port. Again, somebody in your chat can definitely correct me. From my understanding, it came out a little bit after the original release, which was on Xbox 360 and PS3. And then a couple years later, according to my Google, could be wrong, according to my Google, the remastered came a couple years later in 2011.
Okay. So the remastered version... Okay, so the remastered one's the one that I played. See, and that's the thing. I had a really good time playing it through. There were only a few times where I felt the challenge was too much. I know I had guidance from the people in my stream. I had you guys. I had Soldier Pat and Puke Shoes and a couple other guys that came through, just guiding me along the way.
Bro.
Yeah.
No signal.
Your Elgato showing no signal.
Oh, is it back?
Is back.
Oh, there we go. Can you see me now?
Yeah.
Okay. I was pulling the chat up in another window. There we go. We'll keep it like that. Okay. We're good? Everything's good?
Yeah, I got a little delay, but it looks like everything's good.
Okay. Thank you for the resub, Deus.
Hype train, climb on board, and start forking over your hard-earned money to this stupid motherfucker instead of feeding your children or paying off that Ford Taurus from 1997.
That was great. Oh, that was great. I actually thought that I disabled all that, but it's still Tangi is still live on mine. So so my channel points are disabled, but that was something that That was paid for. But yeah, thanks for the hype train. Thank you, Deus, for subscribing. Also, thank you, Gladia, for subscribing. All right, so here's the thing. When it comes to Dark Souls 1, when I first played it, yeah, again, full display. I will say this. This is something that I've been telling Karthus Plays, my buddy Rocco, who did Final Fantasy Rebirth with us. The biggest lie or the biggest trick that I feel the Dark Souls community has played on all gamers is that the game is incredibly difficult. I don't think it's incredibly difficult. I think that it's difficult. But I don't think that it's a challenge that anyone who's ever played Nintendo games back in the day would have a problem with. There are certain challenges, like the Bed of Chaos is a well-known one, and I experienced that, and once I figured it out, I felt so stupid that it's just such a gimmick boss. But outside of that, there really wasn't many challenges in the game that felt this like insurmountable, this like mountain you have to climb over. None of it felt that way. And that's actually a really good thing, because Dark Souls to me is this perfect single player, isolated, lonely type of experience that feels really good to play and explore with such interconnected worlds. And yeah, I actually really can't wait to play Dark Souls 2 and 3, which is one of the reasons why I'm still really glad I went back to Elden Ring.
Well, I'll give you a warning. Beazers will tell you. 2 is considered the worst for anybody in the community, except for a couple people who really like 2. I hear a couple of DLCs in 2 kind of redeem it, but that the base game is really bad. But on the topic you were talking about, old Nintendo games, we were talking SNES, stuff like that. Original Ninja Gaidens is an example.
Oh, Jesus.
Those games, that's how they were short. That's how they got people to play them for hours, is they were insanely difficult.
Absolutely.
I think the Prepare to Die edition and the original release on PS3 and Xbox 360, the community in general says that they were a lot harder because of the slipperiness and the frame rate drops and stuff. But I think the remaster just polished it up. Personally, my experience with the remaster was similar to yours. I think it comes down to knowledge, though. If you're going to the game pure blind, like I did when I first played it, you miss so much. You're so unprepared for everything. I think that's where the difficulty really lies in Dark Souls 1, is when you first play it for the first time and know nothing. You don't know what you're missing. You don't know what you should be doing. You don't even know where to go half the time, right? You go into the graveyard right after you spawn because you're like, I hear a bell. There's a church. I'm going to go to the graveyard. And then you get completely decimated because you're not supposed to go there until the end of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really what it is. It's just you have to learn it, basically. It's a learning curve that makes it difficult. Because if you don't know how the system works or where you're supposed to go, then you're just going in blind. Because nowadays people got more guides and everything, like you were saying. But if you just go into it like, oh well, let me go this way and go this way. I've seen people give up just from going into the catacombs by accident because
Exactly.
they thought that's where they had to go, and they get stuck in the catacombs. They can't get back up to the top, so they just quit the game altogether. And
Funny
they
thing
don't
about
understand. Go
is
ahead.
what you're saying is most people would do that because your thought is, I'm looking for a bell, here's a church, go. Because they don't know one thing about the game yet. You have to
Yeah.
talk to the NPCs until they tell you all their dialogue. Because that guy will tell you not to go there and tell you where to go. You have to talk to him 3 times.
He tells you straight up. He tells you there's one up top and there's one at the bottom. So you got to figure out how you're going to get up to the top, which is go through basically the easy area where there's guys throwing bombs at you and stuff, or go to the bottom, which is like going towards Blighttown basically. But even then, you can't really, unless you know like about the skeleton key.
Right.
Skeleton key to get you to Blighttown like that instantly through going through that one gate, you come straight through past where the big boys are, and then you just go down towards Blighttown. Like it's considered mainly more difficult
All we
because
had to
people
do
don't
was
have that
follow
game
the
being
damn
out as
train,
much as
Exactly.
they
CJ.
want for it. They want to be able to just start the game, be like, okay, I go here right now. They don't want to take time to like explore and
Thank God
learn.
that's
They just want to be told
over.
like, this is where
We
I'm supposed to
made
go right
it to
away.
a
That's
level
understandable
1
because it always
hype
comes from most
train.
games too.
And I, for one,
So
am
the way that I
glad
see
to
it is
get
when I was
off of
learning,
that
first I
ride.
would learn like the combat and stuff, like leveling up. You got to learn what you want to level up because you don't get levels right off the bat. You have to like pick what you want to scale with and how you're going to play. If you don't do that, then you got like a character that's got like points and humanity for no reason that leveled up, and you can't use a sword that you want, or you can't really have a lot of health going in because you're not leveling up your vigor or something. Like vigor is always an important stat. They try to go for like, I need this for the sword, I need this for this sword that I just found, and they start going by just level random things without thinking what's gonna be the main way that I want to play this game. We got strength boys, we got dexy boys, we got magic boys. You can't just level strength and try to wield magic. It's not gonna work. Or if you're gonna use the Uchi, you can't just sit there and level up only strength and intelligence or faith, and then just be like, oh well, can't use the sword right because it's not hitting hard enough. You gotta actually pick and choose how you want to level everything.
And that's another thing. At the exact time we're talking about that this game came out, that's when console games especially were a lot more handholdy, like you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And there were a lot of PC games that still had a lot of that RPG mechanics where you had to learn. But this was a little bit further than that. And then for a console game where it originally released, it completely was unexpected for people. Nobody expected to have to know builds and learn that and basically play for 10 hours just to learn the game and then restart, which is what a lot of people did early on.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the thing with these types of games. Um, it's the environmental storytelling and tutorial and guidance that it offers that really appealed to me, because I didn't realize it when I played Elden Ring for the first time. Like that was kind of the big Souls game a lot of people jumped onto the ship with, is because Elden Ring is the easiest accessible game. It's an open world. It's not like you're stuck against this one path and you have to do it or nothing. There's no respec. There's no, whatever. So when it comes to these games, it doesn't really. I used to say that it changed the way that I played, what I looked for in a video game, and it didn't really change it. It just kind of reminded me of what I liked in video games, because back in the days, the good old days when we were all kids, you'd be lucky if the game you are stuck at and the point you're stuck at was covered in like a Nintendo Power magazine, or if your buddy had some sort of trick, or if you had like a Game Genie or a Game Shark. That was the only way to get around things unless you knew how to do it, and you had to just really force yourself to learn it. That's what I really enjoyed about playing Elden Ring, and that echoes very strongly in Demon Souls. It echoes very strongly in Bloodborne. It echoes strongly in all of these games. You pick up an item, you read the description. That description will give you a clue. It might tie into something someone said earlier. Then you go to this little area and, maybe I shouldn't go and fight the skeletons right off the bat. Instead, I'll just go over here where it's a lot easier enemies and go this way, and it opens up even more. That's really that's one of the best things about these games, and that's one of the things I really I'm really really excited about for the Erd Tree DLC. That's something I'm really really excited about.
So talking about that, since you brought that up, I don't think you've dug deep into the lore yet. I did years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think of just the lore the game gives you? Obviously, you didn't get everything. You didn't read all the item descriptions, but the basic lore that anybody playing is going to get. The basic.
I think my takeaway, so I've only played it through once. I really wanted to play a second time, but based on the stream schedule, and obviously Final Fantasy Rebirth came out, which took over the entire stream for about 2 or 3 months. All them card games. I
played a card game today for the first time in 2 years.
Hey, there you go. But my experience with it, starting out, I wanted to do a replay of it, but I didn't have the time and I couldn't get it in. But I really did start to make some connections with the concepts that they were trying to mark for the player. One of the biggest ones was when I first started playing and I was picking up humanities and was wondering just what the hell are these? What is the function of these? It reminded me a little bit of Demon Souls with the world tendency, a bit, where it's just this weird MacGuffin, like, what is this thing? And it was about maybe about a little more than midway through the game when I was playing Dark Souls that I started putting 2 and 2 together, that I knew that humanities would make items drop, and you would need them to kindle a bonfire, and there were certain things that you would need them for. But it wasn't until maybe the halfway point that I started realizing, wait a minute, is this just designed for the player to ask the question, what is humanity, in a game that is about a bunch of hollowed out undead people striving to become human and retain their souls, and what does it
Yeah.
mean to be human? And when I made that connection, I really understood a lot more. I really had a lot more appreciation for what they were trying to do in the writing style. And again, that's more of that environmental storytelling,
Right.
where you pick up a small item, you read the description, you really think about it enough, and so you start making a connection and go, that's really cool that these humanities that we're dead, we're all trying to get all these, and much humanity is much humanity. But what does that mean? Because you're killing, because humanity only drops from living life forms in the game. So that right there was another one that really got me.
What do you think about that? Rats were the big thing you could farm for humanity.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. The rats are the ones that you mainly get it from.
Yeah.
It's because they're usually eating everything.
Yeah. Yeah, like
I thought
carrion
that
and
was an
shit.
interesting choice. That was the biggest enemy in the game you could farm humanity from was rats.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in terms of DLC at least, because the DLC then you actually farm humanity for humanity
Right. Well, fair,
in a
and
way.
that's a whole different thing
Yeah,
because then you see humanity in a physical form. They look just like the icon for them, right?
Yeah,
But you
yeah.
have to kill them, and they touch you, and they sap you of your health, which I think is them saying something else. Whether you want to look at it from the point of view of just in general, or me personally, I try to focus on the point of view in that same question: what is humanity in the world of the game? Right?
Mm-hmm.
What is humanity in Dark Souls? What does it mean in this specific universe?
What's
And
fun?
it's very interesting.
What's funny is that you bring up the rats, that you can farm humanity from rats, and there has to be a much more eloquent way to say this, but rats and humans have a symbiotic relationship throughout all of humankind. Wherever humans build cities, wherever humans build structures, wherever they are, rats will follow. Doesn't matter if you're in a very clean house, doesn't matter if you're in a big city, rats are always around. So they're always scavenging our remains, our leftovers, our food, things like that. They try to live in our homes for shelter. They'll eat our leftovers, things like that. So that, I think, is the
never even
reason
caused
why.
sickness, the Black Plague.
Yeah, Black Plague's number.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what Black
exactly.
Plague
Yeah.
was.
hmm And that's the thing. There's a lot of layered storytelling, which just, again, you're picking up this one item that, as the player, you go, I just know that I need this. But after a while, you're starting to feel the exact same way just by your own desire to pick up this one item and farm it. You're doing the exact same thing that pretty much anyone who in the game, like any undead enemy, is going to do. You are basically doing the exact same thing. You have the same hunger as the undead in the game. You're trying to gain humanity, even though you're a rotting corpse. You might be the chosen undead, but you're still undead.
And that even is a loose term because any undead could be a chosen undead.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the one that makes it the furthest. They finally say that is the chosen undead.
That leads to the chicken or the egg conversation, right? Are you the chosen undead because you achieved it, or were you picked for to begin with? Which in most cases we believe that there were several chosen undead, quote unquote. As a player of the game, though, you were the one that achieved the final goal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like it just so happened. Like the way I see it, you just so happened to go through and complete it all. It wasn't really expected of you to begin with. It's just that's what you became. Like you earned that title throughout the whole game instead of starting off just as the chosen undead. You became the chosen undead because you went through all the different bosses, got souls, went to go take care of Gwen, and either let the world die or rekindle itself, depending on which ending you chose. Like you were the one that went through and did all that. But then someone else that plays the game does the same thing. So it doesn't really mean that you were chosen from the start. It's that you became the chosen. You fought for that, basically.
I think there's a whole backstory to the dude that actually helps you out in the first dungeon in Dark Souls, right? Like, if it wasn't for him, you wouldn't have done anything, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure what his full backstory is,
Mm-hmm.
but the game kind of kills him off pretty early, obviously. I don't know if
Most
you know
people
more
think
more
that
about
might
that.
have been Gwen. Like some people say that that was just Gwen in disguise, just dropping the key in and then saying you are, or that
Mm.
it could have been just another chosen undead and he ended up dying, and so you just picked up from where he left off, basically.
That does lead to a little bit of a question if we want to go a little metaphysical, if you guys want to talk about this. That specific instance, he comes in, he gets killed. He's already undead, or he wouldn't be there, right? He's claimed that. The next time you see him, he's hollow. From what we understand about hollowing, in Dark Souls 1, you gain more information in Dark Souls 2 and 3 about it, is it happens when you lose your purpose. So he hands you the flask and tells you it's your mission now, and becomes a hollow immediately. So, did he just give up? Did him giving you the stuff was his indication that now he's lost his purpose because he gave his purpose to you? What do you guys think about
Well,
that?
it's not just when you lose your purpose; it's also when you fulfill your purpose and then you have no more purpose.
Right.
Because
Yeah, it's basically not
in
having a
Dark
goal.
Souls 3, there's a couple of NPCs in Dark Souls 3. They finish their goals and then they either die or become hollow. So, but I'll go into more like Dark Souls 3 spoilers. But if we remember Henri and Horace from Dark Souls 3, Henry's main purpose was to take care of one of the bosses that you end up fighting. And then once that's taken care of, he just goes, or he, depending on, if you're a boy or a girl, she goes and back to where Horace was and then becomes hollow herself because she's already finished her purpose and she has nothing else to do after that. So it's not just like losing your purpose altogether. It's like even when you complete what you were supposed to do, you can still become hollow regardless as well.
From what I understand, it's either you give your purpose up or you complete it and you don't have a new one. It's when you are at that point of no purpose, and supposedly dying more often increases that. I don't know if that's just all metaphysical or psychological in the game world, because you die a lot in the game. What happens is us as players, we get discouraged, we get mad, or we eventually stop or quit. And theoretically, people have said this in the lore of the world, you as the player, your character never goes hollow, no matter how many times you die, until you, the player, turn the game off and say, I'm not coming back. And
Hmm.
that's when your character would go hollow. Which
Hmm.
is another one of the things you were thinking, asking about humanity, is where the game's telling breaches out of the game and kind of hits the real world a little bit. And I think they did that on purpose in several instances in Dark Souls 1 and on into the other Souls games.
Now, see, that's interesting. Did you are you saying that if you die so I know that in Demon Souls, if you die enough time, it changes the
Mm-hmm.
world tendency.
Yeah.
Um, is there some sort of system similar to that in Dark Souls that I don't either remember or I'm not
Nope,
or I didn't?
there's not.
Okay. There's
So
no
that's
world
why
tendency. Okay.
yeah, there's no real world tendency, but that's why with the information you're given in Dark Souls 1, it is thought that your character will never go hollow no matter how many times you die, as long as you're playing the game, right?
Hmm.
And then the thought of lore wise that people say is when you stop playing the game is when your character would theoretically go hollow because you're no longer doing it, right? There's no proof of that in game, but that's what a lot of people in the community have situated that the creators were kind of hitting at.
That is kind of funny because I believe that even if you're not playing, your player's ghost when you touch Bloodstain still exists. So in theory, if that's true, then that means that if you did just stop, like this is too hard and I gave up, you might be looking at that bloodstain of that one random dude that gave up years ago. I don't know how long it stays on their server base of like his
Depends
last
on the network.
moments. Depends on network,
The
yeah, but
network
it's still pretty
changed a
cool.
lot
Yeah,
from
it's still a
original
pretty
Dark
cool
Souls
idea to have
yeah.
that go through. I know they had an issue with that with PC. This is even before I
Yeah.
played it. I think that after time, all that information they had on people leaving messages and people, having all that kind of stuff, it can't live on a server forever. But I mean, it's still like
Right.
a cool experience. And it's again, if you weren't there when it first happened, you had to be there when it happened.
Now I can't explain it exactly right, but let me know if you want to. I watched a couple videos a while back. A great creator, if anybody's interested, called Illusionary Wall. He was one of the people that were playing Dark Souls when it first released, and he was a mechanics guy. He was doing the mechanics, figuring out. They were the people that figured out what are the level ranges for co-op, what are this, what are that, because FromSoft didn't tell people this. They were not
Hmm.
giving that information away. These people had to go test and figure it out. And one of the things he was talking about is how the original network worked in the Prepare to Die or the original PS3, Xbox 360 edition. Was it went with nodes. Every player only connected to like 10 other players, something like that. If I get any details wrong, apologies. Definitely check out Illusionary Wall's YouTube channel. He has the info. And that would work where every player was connected to 10 other nodes, and then that player was connected to 10 other nodes, so on and so forth. so you could only were really connected to a specific number of players at a time, and that's how things traveled through. They
Really?
went against that with a remaster, and the remaster is a little more open. Obviously, technology is better, but also they realized that only connected so many nodes thing kind of didn't work. And if y'all haven't seen it, that's where the invader crabs in Dark Souls 1 and stuff like that were so rare to see in the original, but they're a little bit easier to see in the new ones. There's a whole mechanic for if somebody cast a miracle in a spot, there would be a circle on your screen and your miracle would be buffed that people hardly saw because it just didn't work the way it was implemented.
Huh. I didn't know anything about that kind
There's
of
a
stuff.
ring that specifically boosts that. And what it boosts is it doesn't boost miracles, it boosts that miracle synergy. I have never seen the ring. I have seen the red crab once, and that means that it went through people's games over 10 times and wasn't picked up. There'll be little white crabs before that. That's when somebody dies with a lot of humanity, and then it will travel to other games, and it travels so far, and it becomes a little white thing, and you can pick up the item, or if you've not picked up, kind of like a crystal lizard, you can go kill it and grab humanity from it. Eventually, become a red crab that will attack you. I saw one on Dark Souls Remastered in the church right there at the very beginning, right where the gargoyles were on top of. I saw one. It attacked me and started shooting red crystals at me. I didn't know what it was. I looked it up, and that they did that where things would travel between games a lot. And
So
that was an
that's in the
original Dark Souls.
remaster too, or is that not?
Yes, because they didn't take it away.
Holy shit! So basically, if you
Yeah,
die
you
with a
can find
lot of
them
humanity, you can just
randomly.
have something else spawn that comes in and either gives
Yeah.
a bunch of humanity to somebody, or it starts attacking people essentially.
Right. There's been a lot of testing done as well with that. It's very rare to see, apparently, just because of the way the original network was set up and the way that remastered is a little easier, but it still
Yeah.
didn't work great. There are people, Illusionary Wall again, did a lot of testing on these. That's where I went when I didn't know what it was Illusionary Wall. So just pointing these things out, these are other things that I don't guess you had seen. Beast, I think, knows about them. These are things, there's a lot of mechanics that they tried in the early Dark Souls games that didn't work right or weren't implemented right. And so we don't see them, but they're pretty interesting.
Yeah, like I see streamers all the time. They'll be playing the remaster, and they'll just find them randomly. Like, what is that thing? And
Because
they'll
the
just
remaster is
the red
everyone,
ones just attack.
everyone that's
Like the
online.
red ones will kill you right away if you're not ready for them.
Oh, yeah.
They're like actually very strong,
The
surprisingly.
have so
See the
bees.
white ones.
Did you ever encounter any of these? Are they like that tough? Yeah.
So they're not like tough. It's just they hit real hard.
Oh.
Like if you're not ready for them, they can kill you in just 2 hits. But
Exactly.
if you see them and you know what you're getting into, like if you see the white ones, you just be like, okay, cool, I'll kill the white one. See the red one, like, okay, I have to kill that red one, or else it's gonna kill me first. Like it gives
Wow.
you a little sense of urgency when you see them, depending on which one you see. Like if you know about them, you're automatically going like, okay, cool, this one I could just kill and not worry too much. And then you see the red ones, and it's like, no, 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 I gotta kill that one before it sees me right now. And then, hey, you look, you get like humanity. You'll sometimes get items. Like sometimes people will drop items, and you'll get the items there because people will get rid of items that they don't
Right.
want, and then it turns into those crabs too. Like
Yeah,
it
items
is
will
better for
travel
humanity.
as well, yeah.
Like it'll be little items too that you can pick up from other people's world.
Wow. So this must be like how. So I don't know if you guys ever followed when Hideo Kojima was making Death Stranding, and how he was directly referencing the Souls games, and how he used that as his inspiration for making this Strand network type of thing in Death Stranding. And if you didn't play it, it's this
Yep.
game where you can build a structure, and that structure can only be seen by X amount of people, similar to
Yep.
messages in Dark
The
Souls and
original
things like that. Yeah.
Dark Souls, yep.
And that's kind of the thing that like I now am. It's so crazy that if Dark Souls, well, if Dark Souls didn't come out when it did, it wouldn't have ushered in all this stuff. But because it's a very inspirational game. It's inspired so many different types of. I mean, the Souls like genre is because of Demon Souls, Dark Souls, things like that. But now with modern hardware, I mean, this is we're 2024. It's to have this kind of stuff now on just the average console can stream you in 60 frames per second, 1080 at the very least on PS5 and things, and that's just consoles. So now that we have this, it's I'm wondering if they're going to try to implement more things in their future games. I mean, again, upcoming DLC for Elden Ring, really excited about that. But
Yes.
Elden Ring's whole interconnected system, I mean, it's crazy. Major, I was telling you about this, how on the PC, there is a mod for the PC where you can just exist in both people. We can just
Yes,
exist in each
seamless
other's
co-op.
world, seamless co-op, and it's so easily implemented, and it just feels like it was just
Well-
a switch that's flipped. That's it. And I think it's because they already have these systems in place with like laying everything down. They already have the groundwork there for it.
This is where I'm going to give you some bad news from what I've seen in the community, because I've been doing a lot of research lately.
Okay.
So I don't know everything, obviously. But from what I've seen in the community, is in every iteration of Dark Souls, they've experimented less and less. Because the more popular they've gotten, the bigger they've gotten, the less they can experiment, right? And Elden Ring, it's a huge difference with the open world. But as far as these weird mechanics, right? For example, this is another thing I think we should talk about, because none of us could experience this unless Beazers did when it was originally out. Dark Souls 1 had a lot of stuff for co-op and PvP. There's like 3 different ways to PvP in Dark Souls 1. And like 2 different ways to co-op. There's a whole system of grave lording people where you literally send big bad enemies into their world just to mess with them. This is the kind of stuff Dark Souls 1 tried to do. The whole covenants, all of the covenants
the
are
grave
PvP.
lording thing too. You'll still see from time to time the grave lord
Yep.
symbols, and people activate it not knowing what it is, and then lots of enemies.
See, I didn't even know
Well-
about that.
From my understanding, the way grave lording used to work, and you can correct me, Bees, is it happened, whether you agreed upon it or not. And then what you had to do is you had to go into that person's world and kill them. Or you had that in your world. You had those big tough enemies you had to deal with.
It might have been. I never actually experienced it myself. So.
No, because you don't see that anymore, right? Because a lot of
Yeah.
people, I see it as a single player game. And I think Pro has pretty much too. I don't play co-op unless Elden Ring I might, right? But Dark Souls 1, to me, single player game, I go in, I have a good time, I enjoy the lore. The lore is my favorite part. But they tried a lot of stuff to do PvP and co-op in those games that didn't work or was ignored. The whole Covenant system in Dark Souls 1 is all about PvP.
See, that's the one thing that I didn't get into with these games. I did experiment in Elden Ring with PvP, and I do enjoy the PvP systems in these games. They are fun. They're really fun. But I really feel like it's kind of crazy. You have it's like you have two really good restaurants to go to. 'Cause I like the idea of the PvP in this world, but I think that I still give the more attention to the single player experience, because these games really do. They create an ambience, they create a mood, they create a certain type of atmosphere that I absolutely love in these types of games. I'm a sucker for anything that is sword and sorcery, and especially when it's done well. And it's one of the reasons why. There's 2 reasons why I've put Sekiro off. One of them is because it's the hardest. Obviously, it's what everyone says the hardest, so
Yes,
work up to it.
It is.
But the other, it's easy.
These is a god at these games, so we cannot take his experience.
we're gonna grade on
difficulty.
grade on a curve on that one.
Yes.
But the other reason why is not just because it's hard, it's also because there are no builds in Sekiro. You have to be a Dexy boy. You have to be, I mean, I'm sure like it varies a bit, but still, when it comes to these games, I do like the isolation, the building, the atmosphere, and just I mean, I've said it on the stream when I started playing Elden Ring for this face build playthrough that I'm doing, is that the entire story is so good and so well done and all that kind of stuff, but it does feel like it's a side quest. Because the main focus is just you exploring the world and interpreting it the way that you want, and just do it. And you might pick up page 3 of a 28-page novel and just get that little section, and that's all you got to go with.
And they leave a lot. And you got to remember, this is an Eastern game. So as Western people, the 3 of us are, they like to leave, especially FromSoft, a lot to be out in the open, right? On purpose. Some of it's on purpose. Some of it may be on accident. But they want you to have to infer. They want things to not be set in stone facts. They don't explain everything. They like that because people are still talking about the lore of Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls series and Elden Ring years later.
Yeah.
And that's what they wanted. And that's why they did it that way.
Now, speaking of the lore, because there is something that I do remember this from the lore when I was playing Dark Souls 1. my take. So I will admit one thing because I have not played Dark Souls 3 yet, but I like to go in as blind and spoiler free as possible. But I do know, and did you both play Dark Souls 3 to the completion, right?
No, I played about halfway through.
Okay, then I won't spoil it for you. But I do know something about one of the final bosses in the DLC, which is actually a really
I
nice.
know it. Probably I've watched videos. Yeah.
It's a nice callback to Dark
Yeah.
Souls 1, which
It absolutely is.
yeah, Soul of Cinder. You already know about it.
Yeah, I already know.
Okay,
I've
yeah.
seen all the videos
Yeah,
as well. But
Soul of Cinder is
that being said,
essentially you from
I've
Dark
played.
Souls 1.
Yeah,
Essentially you, which
that's
is
the main boss.
my whole take on it was I really wanted to just like walk away and break the cycle. I really wanted to, but I mistakenly lit the flame and got the regular good ending. But that kind of is going to make things for Dark Souls 3 for me feel a little more, connected
The
in a way.
problem with the sequels is exactly what you're just saying. What most people think is the problem with the sequels is they kind of set a canon ending for the other two. I think 2 can avoid this a little bit, but the canon ending for 2 and 3 to happen is in 1 you light the bonfire. Period. Kind of
Yeah,
has to happen.
like that's basically what it is. The first one is you relit the bonfire, and then third one, third one kind of makes it the same, but not
Yeah.
because the way the DLC is in the third one, the second DLC, the Ring City DLC,
Yeah.
is that it's making one of the endings from Dark Souls 3 canon as well, which is
Okay.
basically you let everything go to ash.
Yeah, because you didn't
So
want to continue the cycle at that point.
yeah, and then so you wake up at the end of the world, like literally the end of the world, and then that's when you do all the stuff in that DLC. And
And 2's
so
kind of
like
whatever, I think. There's a canon
for
ending people
two,
think, but
yeah, it's like the Chaos Flame or something gets extinguished. It's not really sure because I never really played that one.
the problem with 2 is it tried to be different. And 2 things happened with 2, just to give you a heads up, because I'm about to play 2 as blind as possible. I played it a little bit, but I haven't beat the game, and I think you are as well, Pro. Is he was working on Bloodborne.
Yeah.
So it's not that it works people working on it, it's just it didn't have the same direction as 1 and 3. So a lot of people gripe about enemy placements. They say it's more frustrating, not in the way Souls should be frustrating, but in the way that enemies are placed in a bad spot. That it's just frustrating, right?
Yeah,
And the
frustrating for me
story
is like if
is
something's broken or if something's mismanaged or misplaced, not if the enemy is
kind
hard.
of that, right?
Yeah.
And the story of the original Dark Souls 2, before you get into the DLCs, are not the greatest. It tries to take the story in a different place, which I can respect, but in general, the boss fights aren't considered the best in the series. They're considered the worst, and the game in general is considered the worst Dark Souls, but it's still better than most other games, right? So definitely
Even
gonna
the
play
worst
it.
in a good series is still a good
Yeah.
game.
Yeah.
So I know you're going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm sure Bees will do it as well.
Yeah. It's basically a Ferrari with a flat tire, essentially. Or it's just made by because the other thing that I've heard about Dark Souls 2 is that Dark Souls 2 may be the worst Souls game, but it is the best Souls-like game because it was made by a different studio. Like, it's not the in-house main people that were all making Dark Souls 1 and 3 and Bloodborne. It's a different studio, essentially.
I don't know exactly who the team was, but I know that Miyazaki himself was working on Bloodborne at the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that being
And
said,
even
I wanted
then,
to ask. Go ahead.
there's still people that say that they like that story just as much as they like the other
I've
ones as
heard that
well.
too.
They like the story. They still like how it does certain things, right? Like power stamping weapons. They say it does better than in 3, because in 3 there's some power stamping sometimes, but like they say that there's a lot of things that 2 did that actually went into Elden Ring as well. Like there's mechanics from 2 that went into Elden Ring. So they're like they're still positive even with all the negativity that's in
So I wanted to hit the hard
it.
question. So you guys ready?
Sure.
We've all played Elden Ring. We've all played what we consider the culmination to this point of all the things they learned from Demon Souls, Dark Souls 1, 2, 3, and Bloodborne, right? Going back to Dark Souls 1 as a game, where do you rate it? I'll start. I still think it's a very good game. I rate it a 9 out of 10, easy.
I'd rate it pretty high too. Like I played.
I still keep it as my top. Like
So it's
that's the
definitely
game that
worth
started
going
me
back.
on all of it. So
Yeah.
like, as it being the game that started me on all these Souls games and stuff, and how much I enjoyed playing it for that first time, it's still number one for me.
Yeah.
Good to hear.
I really enjoyed Bloodborne. I mean, Dark Souls. When it comes to all of these games as a whole, I think there is not a bad one in the bunch. And even when I play Dark Souls 2, of course I'm going to get frustrated with some of this obvious pitfalls and enemy placement and things like that. But going into Dark Souls 1, I really thought to myself, okay, this is a game, it's old, a lot of people say it's hard, and I had a great experience. I mean, maybe it was because I was playing the remastered on newer hardware,
It
but
helped.
yeah, but I mean, again, playing the game as it was quote unquote intended, I guess, to play mechanically, it still was rated really high. I liked the lore, I liked the world, and what really threw me for a loop is that I really love Elden Ring and its lore. And when I went to Dark Souls 1, I realized that they did kind of copy paste a lot of things from Dark Souls 1, and some of it's not, some of it is callback, but a lot of it is just blatantly, this is the exact same story beat, and I'm actually okay with it 100% because I feel like Elden Ring is the culmination of everything, as you said.
Yeah.
It's bringing the familiarity for people who know from Dark Souls these things, but also people who never played Dark Souls. Here are those things. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. There's still, there's still an onion bro in there. There are still,
Yeah.
there's still a lot of like little familiar beats in there. Where when I was playing Dark Souls 1, I said, "Wow, that is exactly what happened to Elden Ring." But I'm totally fine with it because again, the mechanics are fine. They just improved them over the years. The story's fine. They just improved it. Or maybe not improved, but
Well,
just kind
and
of
if you,
homage.
I don't think you got too deep into it yet. You may have,
Mhm.
because I watched some of your playthrough.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to spoil anything. You won't see it until you go deeper than the base story the game gives you.
Mhm.
But if you look at Elden Ring, you see a lot of the dark fantasy, Dark Souls 1, 2, 3 inspired stuff. But you
Mhm.
also see what Miyazaki was doing with Bloodborne in there.
Oh yeah.
There's a whole set of not quite eldritch, but outer gods, unknowable gods in outer space that you deal with in Elden Ring a lot.
Oh, I've
And I
I've
think
beaten
that's
Elden
what
Ring
it's
like
done.
this is my fourth playthrough of Elden Ring.
Okay.
I'm fully, yeah. I started my whole stream with Elden
Right.
Ring. My whole streaming
So
thing was Elden
you're
Ring.
aware that it's
Yeah.
basically, in my opinion, he took all the ideas, the good ones, the ones that he
Yeah.
felt were a success from both series, and put them in Elden Ring in a new universe,
Mhm.
in open world gameplay. Obviously, mechanics are different, and he's put them together. And I'm fine with it. I love the way Elden Ring works that way. That way, you get that dark fantasy, which is my preferred,
Mhm.
and then you get a little bit of that eldritch story as well when we're talking about lore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's also some things from Sekiro that are thrown in there as well. Like the
I,
Rivers of Blood animation,
yeah,
that's an animation from Sekiro that most people that haven't played Sekiro don't know.
yeah, well,
There
I haven't. So thanks
there's
for letting me
another
know.
one. I haven't
Like,
played Sekiro, but I saw this on a clip really quick. The way that Melania dodges you, that quick
yeah,
shoulder
that
dodge
quick
is from
dodge
someone
attack.
from Sekiro, who I'm sure you know who it is. I
And
don't know.
you've seen the monk, what we believe to be the monk animation, the trailer that came out, right?
Yeah.
Where you're doing the high kicks and stuff.
Mhm.
That's also from Sekiro.
Yeah.
That's one of the moves that you learn as well.
And
Like he's implemented a lot of things from all the different games.
I really hope that they have a lot more stuff that are inspired. A lot more. I really feel like the Elden Ring DLC, if at least we have new unique Ashes of War or weapon skills or even somehow a new class, quote unquote. Again, I don't know because the classes are not. It's not traditional classes in these games. That are more aligned with what Sekiro's DLC could have been, because Sekiro never got a DLC, and I know that Sekiro fans were really upset they didn't get a DLC. This might just be that time where they're going to implement some of those ideas that got scrapped or they had on the table into this game, because the first trailer has the monk animation. The second trailer there's a couple other things with stuff. So it's, I mean, also I love dark fantasy, but I also love monks and kung fu. So if they're going to
Very
put that
nice.
stuff in there, then hell yeah, I'm all there for it.
What's your guys' favorite part of Dark Souls 1? I wanted to get asked that question because I feel like it's kind of important. I'll say lore for me. I already mentioned that.
Probably the 10th attempt at Bed of Chaos. That was my favorite.
I like the mechanics, honestly. The fact that it's not like one of those games where you get hit a couple times while you're attacking and your health just goes like not like most action games are. You sit
Right.
there and dish out a beating while receiving a beating at the same time. Like, it makes you focus more on don't get hit. Like it emphasizes that more than any other action game or RPG game. You know, you got like Final Fantasy, that where some of it is turn based, more being more action based nowadays. Like you still take hits and you can still like heal and stuff like that. But with the combat in the Souls game, like if you keep getting hit, you're running out of supplies and stuff like that a lot easier.
Hmm.
You know, it makes you manage your resources way more like a survival horror game kind of,
Oh yeah.
where you go into it thinking like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be able to tank these hits, and that's not the case. Even the most tankiest of builds, they still get hit way harder than in other games where you're taking like minimum damage compared to games like this.
Yeah.
You know,
Then you
you
need
have
to
to
bring
be
in
able
those mechanics, right?
to like plan your attacks. You can't just go in all willy nilly, just like swing your sword around and be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna just keep swinging and swinging and swinging. They're gonna hit me twice, and then I'm gonna beat the boss. It's like no, some bosses you actually have to sit there and focus. Like, okay, I have to watch out for this attack. I have to make sure this attack doesn't hit me. If this attack starts, I have to go away from him
Hmm.
completely, or else he's gonna take me out in one hit. Like you have to plan everything out, and you have like limited heals where you get hit a couple times. It's like, all right, cool. When should I heal? Instead of being like, okay, I got hit, let me heal real quick. I got 99. That's fine. That's cool. I got all these heals. I could just keep going back, going back. It's like, no, I got hit twice. Should I heal now or should I wait for another attack and then heal? Because who knows what's going to happen after this, regardless. Because even after some bosses, you're not guaranteed to get that safety. You're still in that mind of like, okay, after this boss, what's next?
Yeah.
Like I can't just plan for this boss. I have to plan for this boss, getting to this boss, and then what's after the boss because I'm not guaranteed that safety. For all I know, there could be something bigger and badder right behind that guy, and so you can't just be like, all right, cool, I got 10 heals. I'm gonna use them all on this boss, and then I'll be good. There's a checkpoint right after. That's not always promised. Sometimes it's okay, cool. I got this boss. I gotta make sure I avoid these attacks and attack at this time because once I get past that, there might be like a second phase, or there might be a whole nother boss right after that that I have to get ready for. Which you see with like things like Radagon and Elden Beast. You know, you go in the Radagon fight, you go in there, you use all your heals. And some people like their first time, they were like, okay, cool, this is it, that's cool, I beat him. Then the Elden Beast pops up, and then you're like, I have no heals or nothing, and then you take you on like 2 hits. Like you have to sit there and plan your attacks more so in these games than other games because if you don't, you're not going to be able to succeed.
I think like a lot of the bosses in Dark Souls, I've noticed that if you do go, who is the? It's the final boss of the DLC that I beat out of order. I can't remember his name, but
Manus?
Manus. That's what it is. Yeah. Um, he's very much on the attack through the entire time. But even during
Very
that
aggressive.
fight, there are still moments where you can walk away, you can disengage, run away, and rethink your strategy. Like that's actually something that happened when I was fighting. Was it the two guys, Bo Strogue and Bo whatever, the two
Ornstein and Small.
Ornstein and
Ornstein and
Smog,
Smog. Yeah, I got my ass kicked by them by a couple times, but then eventually I realized I can just kind of run around and not get hit and really plan my next move and go, okay, there's an opening here. And that's the thing. I do love those types of fights where, okay, they're not going to immediately kill me, and I don't do much damage, but I can guarantee this one hit as long as I can catch them in this one animation, and then after a while you can go, okay, wait a minute, there's another animation, or I can hit them twice after this before they recover, and eventually you just start getting that momentum going to where once you beat them, I always have that feeling of once I figured out everything clicks and I beat a very difficult boss, especially in Dark Souls 1, I wanted to immediately do it again. I really want to do it again. Um, for me, my joke answer obviously is is Bed of Chaos, but because that was just a funny time. And also streaming it with all of you guys, that was a really memorable time. But I think that my favorite part about Dark Souls 1, I mean, there's the lore, there's the mechanics. I loved getting a new weapon and just playing with it. Like just seeing how attack, like if I press R1 twice, if I press R1, R2, if I try to do this and then go back or try to jump with it, the kicking mechanic is something that I didn't know I needed in Elden Ring, and now I really miss it playing Elden Ring. And I know you can get an Astral War, but it's not the same of just pressing R1 and forward and just kicking someone to break their defense. That is so much fun to do once I started clicking to see how useful that is. Like, wait a minute, I can just kick you a bit and then just hit you, and it's so much more fun.
The great thing about what you just said too is you can't just look at the stats of a weapon, especially in Dark Souls 1.
Oh yeah.
It's also the move set and what B said.
It will not tell you the combos. It will not tell you any of the combos of the moves. Nope. You got to figure all that out yourself, and I love stuff like that.
Web could have great scaling, but if the moveset is awful, like stock, you will literally throw yourself off of stuff if you're not careful because you step forward. With a lot of the stabbing swords, and a lot of their movesets aren't great. So even though they do piercing damage and their scaling might be great, a lot of times they're just not great weapons compared to other ones with better movesets. The Claymore is one of the best movesets in the entirety of Dark Souls 1, in my opinion.
I really loved the Claymore.
I know you like the Uchi.
I loved the Zweihanda, but what really kept coming in, it kept coming in. Like I also loved the what is it, the Demon's big greatsword, the big ugly one that I loved. But the one that I kept coming back to, it's the one that I had to go back to defeat Artorias, was the Man Serpent Blade, because the moveset on it was just so cool. It was just so useful to have. So it was shorter, but it was faster, and it was still a strength weapon to hit really hard. And I think you can do it more with Dex as well, but it was kind of a strength primary, but a little hybrid, where you can just do a little more. And I think in that fight I needed more versatility, so having a good backup. But yeah, that Claymore was really that Claymore has one of the best movesets in the whole damn game.
I'd use the not the great sword, which is funny because this is always a funny thing I thought to point out. You guys probably know what I'm talking about, but your character is smaller than everybody else in the game, except for other humanoids. But most of the bosses are always bigger than you. So a regular sword for the Black Knights is a great sword for you. And their great sword is an ultra great sword for you. It requires like 50 strength. The regular knight the Black Knight great sword, that's a great sword technically, but it's just a regular sword for them, has almost the same moveset as the Claymore. The R2 is different. And I really like that weapon. That's what I use for my playthrough, as you guys saw. That's what I used to kill Artorias, Manus, and the Cyclops dragon. For some reason, I forgot his name.
Calamite.
Thank you.
You know, speaking of
usually people go towards those weapons anyway because they're stronger too.
Yeah.
Like they are the strongest ones that you can get in the game, and that's usually one of the ones that people use to do the whole game with once they get it. Because it's not guaranteed that you get it sometimes. Sometimes you gotta like actually go and find multiple Black Knights that have that in order to get that.
Or you gotta wait till the end of the game.
Yeah.
Where you can farm them.
It's like a whole luck thing to get that sword. So once they get that sword, you can just use that sword the whole game.
Yeah, I've seen a couple people. So I was trying to avoid everything during my first playthrough. After I beat it, I went through and started looking at, clips of it and other people's experiences, going down the rabbit hole of all the lore and things like that. And one of the things I did see is I saw a clip where someone kills. There's the first Black Knight you encounter in the Undead Burg, and there's two of them there, but the one that was up the tower, and he kills him and he drops the sword. And all the comments are basically like, "Holy shit! Oh my god!"
Because he got it so early, right?
Yeah, and stuff like that is like, so I have the sword, but I got it at the very end. If I play through again, yes, I'll have the sword, sure. But that first time experience, getting that lucky, and also if you were trying to spec your character to have that build, that's an insane advantage, which is super awesome. I mean, I got lucky a couple times on my first playthrough. I didn't even realize it. Going through the bridge and what was it? It's the that big Minotaur dude that drops down. All I did was try to get behind him, and he just jumped off the bridge.
He'll do it.
I had to
Yeah.
replay the reaction. Like, wait, what?
Speedrunners.
What just happened?
Love that, but it's hard to get them to do it apparently.
I
So you had, that's luck right there. That was luck.
yeah.
Like people get lucky and that happens.
And my exact
This
mindset,
is
my exact, mindset for it was, all right, I'm gonna try to get behind him real quick and kind of, do a quick, visceral attack or something like that. Just try to see what he's. I had no idea that he would just go, boom, and jump down. And it's weird, like playing Elden Ring, going back to Elden Ring, the amount of times that Godric the Grafted jumps back and there is a spot where you can fall down right in that area and he doesn't. I'm guessing they may have learned from that mistake and fixed it because, like, wow, going back and fighting him this time, it's like, okay, he kept jumping back.
That reminds me. So that spot, that specific boss, brings up something that's really common in all the Dark Souls games, and even in Elden Ring. I just discovered one on my stream an hour ago. The ganks, the ambushes. That specific fight, you're supposed to walk up that ladder, right? You walk forward, there's archers shooting at you. So the first instinct most people would do would be to run forward to try to get out of the archer's range, and that's when he jumps down on you. It's supposed to be that big wow moment at the very beginning of the game where you walk forward to run from the archers, and then this giant demon just jumps on your head. How do you guys feel about that? The way the game, all the Dark Souls games do that.
You mean like how in the first area you start walking up a staircase and a boulder crushes you? Yeah, I love it.
Exactly.
I love it every time. I hate it, but I love it. I love stuff like that. It's kind of funny. I love super gritty, dark, grounded, super serious stuff that does something like that because it is pure comedy at that point. Because it can only go so far one direction that it just pings back. Once I went up, I was like, okay, that's hilarious. Like, that's hilarious. That is absolutely developers just going like, hey, dumbass. Boom. There you go. Yeah, I love stuff like that. It's when it's implemented well and it makes me laugh, I can't be mad. What's that?
Like, it keeps you on your toes the whole entire game.
True. Yeah. Once it happens to you once or twice, you've got that anxiety. That's the survival horror you were talking about.
And then that's like the first time you see your first mimic. Like, you're so comfortable with the thought of, oh my god, chest, they got chest. I get probably things. And then that first one just goes bam right on top of your whole dome.
And probably the first one to get you kills you too, because you're low level.
I mean,
every time.
Getting trapped in Caelid in Elden Ring is the reason why instinctively every time I open a treasure chest in any of these games, I spam circle. I open it to jump back because that's the only way to avoid it. I do that every single time. I'm now on my toes. I love, and that's the thing. I've talked about this before on stream. One of my biggest loves in video games is if a game has a good walk cycle. And what I mean is it feels so good to just naturally push the analog stick forward and your character will like slowly walk and you have full control on the camera to really absorb the world. And that's something that I really experience in these games. It feels like a nice comfy couch whenever I go back to play something like Elden Ring. And I felt that exact thing with Dark Souls. I didn't know 100% the mechanics, but it really felt familiar. That idea of survival horror, you have to really creep around the corner. And I always have that mentality whenever I go into any like combat situation or anything in those games of, as long as all the enemies are in front of me and nothing's behind me, I think I might be okay. But the developers know that. So there's a lot of times where you'll go forward and you get trapped and you're like, fuck. And then you're ambushed and you have to run. And you're out of your comfort zone and you have to think on your toes and you have to really get smart and quick to survive in some of these. One of the reasons why I think the whole like running a level 1 challenge is appealing to me. It is.
I'm definitely looking at that in Elden Ring. That being said, too, it brings you to the next thing. What you were talking about. I think Beazers replayed several of these already. I haven't replayed any of them except Elden Ring. I think you're on your 4th playthrough, you said a minute ago. There's that initial experience of the world, the lore, the punishment. Then on a replay, you can get some of that, but it's never the same in your first time.
Yeah.
But what most people do is on the replays, now it's a different game. It's a puzzle game. It's where do I go to get this build going immediately, and just stomp on this game, right? Like revenge for what it put me through the first playthrough.
Sure.
And the huge community on YouTube, here on Twitch, of people doing this. And I love that part. I love it. I'm doing the math right now on my mage build in Elden Ring on where do I need to go, what do I need to do, just so I can stomp the crap out of these bosses that put me through hours of torture 2 years ago. And I think that's another really good thing these games give you.
Yeah, like one of the reasons why I like doing Dark Souls 1 over and over again is because after you've done it like 2 or 3 times, you realize that there's all these bosses that you don't have to fight right away. Like literally, the bosses that you consider the main bosses are actually pretty optional. Like the Taurus Demon. Taurus Demon is actually an optional boss if you do it a certain different way. Like
You have
there's a way
Master
to
Key,
just
right?
bypass that. Yeah, you just need the master key. That's it.
Yeah.
You just need a master key, and then you can skip about 4 bosses just right off the bat. You don't have to do Taurus. You don't have to do Kappa. You don't have to do the Gaping Dragon. You can go just straight to Quelaag and then fight Quelaag, and that's it. And then you can just go around and get like Press Shield for the stamina regen and stuff. You can go get the Uchi. You don't even have to deal with the Red Dragon. You can completely cut the Red Dragon out the whole thing by not going to one part of the game. And it's
Yep.
just
You
one
can
one
sequence
one
break.
little section. It's just the one bridge where you cross where you very first time you see that Red Dragon, you stay away from that bridge the whole game. He will never spawn.
Yeah.
So you that whole big bridge where he's shooting the fire and stuff, you can go up and down that bridge comfortably without him ever coming out and attacking you. So that's basically 4 bosses right there that you've never had to deal with right off the bat. Then you can still get some of the equipment that you need. You can still see some of the merchants that you need. Then you can just go on to Orlando and take care of that. Like you basically skip a whole bunch of bosses, not even have to do it once
And Elden
or
Ring's
even
even
do it
more
again.
open about it. You don't
Mm-hmm.
have to do.
Yeah.
You only have to kill 2 bosses to go to the final boss theoretically. Well, then you have to go to Cloud Top, right? But you only have to kill 2 bosses to do the final sequence, right? You
So
just
you
need
just
two
need to
great
kill
runes.
2 bosses to get to the capital city. You just
Yep.
need 2 great rooms. That's it.
Yep.
So you can
Exactly.
kill Gondor, and then you can go kill Renala, and then that's all you need. You just go to the Altus
Yeah. You don't have to
Plateau,
go
you
to
go to
Caelid.
Glendale.
You don't have to go over to
Yeah,
Volcano Manor. Nothing if you don't
yeah, you
want to,
don't have to
right?
do none of that.
But then you
Like
would
you can
miss out
choose
on
where
one of
you
the
want to
most
go.
fun areas in the entire game because Caelid
Caelid,
is one of
yeah.
my favorite
Right.
fucking areas. I'm in it right now in my
Caleb is my
playthrough and I'm
favorite.
absolutely loving it. I don't want to leave Caelid ever.
So here's the thing: what you just said. That's what some people do too. So after your first playthrough, you can go back, beat the crap out of the game. You can go back, sequence break the crap out of the game,
Yeah.
speed run the game, or challenge run the game. There's so many options the way these games are built
Hmm.
for replayability and for content, for people like us that create content on
Yeah.
YouTube or Twitch. It's a huge community, and people are still, you still see people posting videos about Dark Souls 1. I mean, we just did recently here on Twitch, but on YouTube all the time.
Like people are still replaying these games, and there's still an audience for them too.
Yeah.
Like
Huge
it's a
audience.
dedicated audience. Yeah,
Yeah. I
like you
had
can still
a
get
lot
viewers
of
just from
traffic
these
come in
games.
through my stream just because of Dark Souls. Because I'm a first time player coming into Dark Souls. Yes, it's not my first FromSoft game, but a lot of people came in during the stream when I was doing Dark Souls 1 and have engaged with the content since then. And that's a testament to, I mean, Dark Souls 1 is like the game. Demon Souls came before it, yes, but we don't talk about the Demon Souls community. People don't say thank you Demon Souls. They say thank you Dark Souls. It's been memed. It's a huge deal, and it definitely deserves its place in gaming. I mean, Dark Souls 1 really was a really fun experience. And I mean, dude, when I think about all these games as a whole, it's never a bad time. I mean, maybe Dark Souls 2 might be a bit of a bad time, but these are never a bad time.
It'll be good, I think. A lot of people
Yeah.
give it a lot of crap in the community, but I think most of that's a meme. I think at the end of the day, it's still going to be okay. It's just going to have more frustration that's unnecessary in it, and
Mhm.
it's just going to be the bottom of them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it ain't no Neo.
I played
Neo is
Neo
a
for
whole other
like
thing.
I really wanted to like Neo. I played it for about
I
3
tried it too.
hours and
Right.
I liked the idea and I liked the concept, but the combat, it just didn't click with me. It just didn't click. It just didn't click with me. I
And
didn't.
it shows you how well From did, even in the
Yeah.
first game with the problems it had. Because other
Mhm.
people who've tried to copy it, very few of them have been able to either copy it or make it better. Most of them have made it
Yeah.
worse.
I think
Like Neo
everyone.
has its concept
I think
basically. Like
every.
Neo has the idea, but the combat itself, it's like no matter how good at the combat you get at the game, even towards like later in the game when you have like all this equipment and stuff, you're still getting 1-2 shot or stun locked into death regardless. Like no matter how hard you try to get out of combos that are against you and stuff, you're still just like stuck in the animation. So where the point is, you got a boss that's got like a 16 hit combo, put the controller down, go make a sandwich, and then come back and then just try again. Like
Mm-hmm.
This
that's a
guy
game
beat
where it's like
Sekiro
Yeah.
twice. The second time with the debuffs
six
on.
times,
So he's good.
six times.
So that shows a problem with Neo, not
Yeah.
Beast.
Yeah, I know.
Like, I'm on Sekiro New Game Plus 7. I went through hell on that New Game Plus run with two
Dude, I
debuffs that made the bosses stronger, made chip damage when you block. I barely beat the last boss with that much health and no heals, and this game pisses me off way more. Like Neo just can't make up for that at
yeah.
all.
Dude, I've watched a good bit of you streaming some of these things. I mean, I was there when you were fighting Orphan of Kos, and when you're doing this. I mean, Orphan of Kos, I saw you and you were just happy as shit. And you were playing for I think up to like 36 hours at that point. Came back and played it for another couple. It was just pure joy. Like that's the thing. If you're probably one of the better Dark Souls FromSoft players that I know, and for beating Sekiro and just like that to go and say, yeah, Neo pisses me off. That's a huge, big red flag for me. Like I had that feeling about it, and then I've heard other people saying you got to play Neo. I think honestly, if I play any other non-FromSoft game that's a Souls-like, the next one I have any eyes on outside of that of this sphere is Lies of P. That's the only other one I've heard is actually really up there with
All right.
the same
Everybody's
level.
talking about it. You got to try Crab Souls. Apparently, it's really good.
Yes, I've
I
heard
want to
that.
play
Yes,
that.
it's available right now. I was thinking about trying Crab Souls. Yes, it's cutesy Dark
It's only on
Souls.
PS5 though. I can't get it on PS4. I'm upset.
Mm,
Isn't it? Wait, I thought it was on PS4, isn't it?
they're doing
I
that thing
looked.
where a
It's
lot of
not
games
there.
aren't coming out on poor anymore.
Ah,
Yeah, they're doing
yeah.
that transition thing that they're doing because everybody's going to be talking about PS6s now.
Well, yeah,
So
because
PS4
yeah.
games aren't getting. It's just like Rise of the Ronin. You would think that would be on PS4. Not. That's on PS5.
The thing is, though, as a person who like I've been in the position before where before I had the PS3 for a long time before I had the PS4, and I was right in that camp like why can't I just play it on this goddamn console? But I understand, even though it pisses me off, I understand from an industry perspective why they need to start pushing that because then no one's going to buy it. Because they're already saying the PS5 is halfway through the life cycle, and honestly, consoles as a whole, I mean, Microsoft
Yeah.
really isn't even in the hardware game anymore. And I mean, I'm like,
I think we've moved past it.
yeah, I say it every time I'm on the stream now, but like I have this machine now that I can't wait to do all my new gaming on. And I mean, I've played Elden Ring on it, and I thought Elden Ring looked good on PS5, but it looks great on this too. It looks even better on this. So I'm like, like it just. I hate to say that like it needs to move forward, but it does. It just does. And it sucks because now that the PS5 is more available, and they're also talking about making a PS5 Slim, the price of it will come down. I imagine holiday season this year, there's going to be there's going to be nobody without a PS5 or Xbox, whatever that they want to get.
Yeah,
I hope so. I'm going to stick with my PC until it dies anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just too much availability there, especially in the work we do, right?
Yeah.
Especially with my college and stuff, I got to have a working PC anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But consoles on drop down release year are so expensive. You ain't going to get a great gaming PC. But think about the PC you can get for $700 right now.
Well, yeah.
Same price as the PS5 came out when it was brand new.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it ain't going to play the newest games, but if you know what you're doing, especially if you do a little build yourself, you could play stuff.
Yeah.
Anything that the PS5 will play. Maybe not at the same graphical quality, but most of it for the same amount of money, and then have the ability to do stuff on your PC.
Yeah. Plus, also, if you do it like a nice build where it's a little future-proofed, where you can upgrade some of those components, you can always upgrade your RAM, your graphics card, things like that. Yeah, you're fine. You're fine. Like I don't really expect me to have to upgrade this for a number of years. So
No, to be fair, yours was more expensive than a console is on release, but you've set it up to where you don't have to worry about it for 3 or 4 years, which used to be the reason people got consoles.
Yeah.
You get it. You don't have to worry about requirements. You don't have to worry about it. You've got 4, 5 years unless something crazy happens, and you can play. But it's getting more and more where that's not the case. Games are coming out broken on consoles now.
Yeah.
Consoles are only getting to run. They can't run 60 FPS on some games. You know, all kinds of stuff. So I think it's all moving towards PC gaming, honestly.
And that's the thing. It's a good and bad thing because I am such a big physical media person. And I'm going to feel really bad. 'Cause I mean, like, we got, like, Grand Theft Auto 6 coming out. We've got the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC coming out. And it's, yes, I can probably get these games for cheaper or, you know, completely free if you know what you're doing kind of thing on PC. But I still like to have the physical disc. I mean, behind me is a shelf of, it's a tome of all of my years of nerdiness of just all of this, all these discs that I have. And I still think it's a good thing because when it comes to all digital stuff, I mean, they're taking away some of the stuff that we've bought because we don't own it. We just paid for the privilege to play it when it's digital. And it's more convenient on digital, yes, but you don't actually have the physical copy.
To where on a PS5, owning the disc is nice, but you still have to download it to the system before
Exactly.
you play it.
Exactly.
I don't like that. I know that they do that for reasons. But that kind of avoids the point, in my mind, of having a physical medium, is so that you don't have to use up a bunch of hard drive space for it.
Yeah, I can still, you know, grab, you know, Vice City on PS2 and play it, you know, as long as the PS2 still works. You know what I mean? I can still do that. But, you know, when it comes to modern games, I mean, yeah. And also just not having to load from a drive, it's a lot faster. It's a lot better
Well, you are
experience.
aware, too, that the Xbox 360 store, I think, is about to or already has gone down. So a lot of the physical Xbox 360 games from back in the day are starting to go real high. So the secondary market on those games are getting real crazy.
Yeah.
Games like Lost Odyssey, which a lot of people missed that one. One of my favorite games. I want to point that out. Lost Odyssey was a multi-disc game on the 360. Very underrated and overlooked RPG. But I promise you, a physical copy of that now is probably going up into the hundreds.
Yeah, you bring up a good thing. Lost Odyssey. I've heard the name, but you said it's one of your favorite games. So, like, what kind of game is that? Is it a traditional like RPG?
It's a traditional turn-based RPG. But the graphical quality and the storytelling of this game for the time of the 360 were amazing. There's a reason why it was on like 3 discs. It had really great graphics for the time. You know how now sometimes you'll play a game, you'll go from cutscene to gameplay, and there's not much of a difference. This was one of the first games I ever saw that did that, to where it wasn't like the cutscenes were really high quality and the gameplay was different. You could see a big, huge difference. Also, the story was pretty unique. I enjoyed the game. We'll definitely talk about it at some other point, but it's a good game. But, you know, there's a lot of popular games on the 360 now that are going to be really expensive because of this.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
It's becoming like back when the Atari started becoming more expensive now than what it was back when it first came out.
Oh, yeah.
The nostalgia.
Well, everybody likes to hook up that old retro. I mean, at least if you, I don't know. I mean, newer generations of kids are understanding, like, hey, hooking it up to an old CRT TV and, you know, and all the original hardware and stuff like that. It's a whole experience. I mean, it also just looks completely different and plays exactly the way that you need it to if you have all original parts. I mean, emulators can get the job done, but it doesn't really match for what it used to be.
Well, the sad thing is, game preservation wise, emulators are probably where a lot of that's going.
Oh, yeah.
They're doing a lot of the heavy lifting because stores are closing down, right? The Wii U store, I think, closed down recently, which I wasn't a big fan of the Wii U myself, or the Wii, not the Wii U. But there's a lot of games on there that you can't get physically because they didn't produce a lot of carts, a lot of physical for them. Same thing for a lot of the older handheld systems from Nintendo. The DS, the first original DS and some of that, they didn't produce as a bunch of those because a lot of that's when they were transferring to digital. And so finding those physically are very hard. You can't buy them online anymore because the store's down. Yeah. So emulation is about the only way to preserve that game.
Oh, yeah. I still have my copy of Eternal Darkness on GameCube. And I'm so glad that I have that in perfect condition. That and like Resident Evil 4, which is, I mean, that's been ported and remade, but Eternal Darkness has never been ported or remade or anything, and that's one of my favorite like Eldritch horror type kind of survival horror games. I love that game so much.
What about you, Bees? What kind of, since we're talking about retro for a little bit, what were the big ones you played?
Uh, I can remember back when Gex the Gecko was a thing.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Gex was
mascot
my
of
favorite.
platformers,
Oh
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Mario, Gex.
Yeah, see, he would like go into the TVs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
yeah.
And they went up to like the third one on that. Another one that I really enjoyed was on PS3. I really enjoyed the Infamous games.
Yeah,
Oh
Infamous
they were
yes.
good.
2. Yeah, those were
And
great
Prototype
games.
were
And
similar.
Prototype was like the more violent option.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like,
basically.
you go and cut people in half and stuff. Infamous was like more of a superhero kind of thing, like
Yeah,
whether
where
you're
you
a
could be
superhero
bad or
or
good, right?
yeah. And that ended with like they made the one for PS4, but that wasn't really the same as the first two because it was like a whole different character and
The
stuff.
Yeah,
first
Second
Infamous was
Son.
so good. I loved the first
Yeah, the
I
first
Infamous.
think that
Infamous was
was the
very
industry, right?
underrated.
Yeah, I love how
Yeah,
if you
like
went bad or good, both endings are very, very viable based on who the
Yes.
final villain
yeah,
is, and I just loved how that it could go either way. I loved how Infamous
yeah.
one
Like
worked.
with the first one, regardless, it was always like you were either the hero or the villain because the guy that was pushing you the whole game was you from the future.
Yeah,
And I was like, well, didn't really expect that until they put it right into your face. Like
yeah,
you would kind of think, like, where'd this guy come from? Why he's got the same powers? And then it's like, oh well, I know how it was. I went through all this stuff too, and this is my decision that I made. Like your decisions affected like the backstory of the main villain, basically. Like if you were bad the whole time, the main villain was like kind of more good than bad,
mm-hmm,
and so it was like it really made you feel like when you were the villain, you were the villain.
yeah,
And then there were things like the Uncharted series. I really enjoyed the Uncharted series.
yeah.
Nathan Drake was like my man. He didn't get a really good game when the fourth one came out, and so you had to do it. And then you go back further, and it's like they're talking about bringing back Spyro the Dragon.
Yeah,
Spyro is a great
3D
game.
platformers.
Yeah.
Like all three of them were great games. You can
Oh
get
yeah.
them remastered and stuff. Like that's cool, but like I'd like to see a new one of that come around.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just go back like Killer Instinct. I don't think Killer Instinct that really came back as strong as it should have. And that was another option if you did
Fighting
like
games have
have
took a
Mortal
big hit, I
Kombat.
think. Yeah.
Yeah, like the newer Killer Instinct, it looks cool and stuff, but it just doesn't feel the same.
Oh,
Yeah.
And
I know
Pokemon's
Pro is
on
big on
TikTok.
Mortal Kombat and how they've
Yeah,
not done great in their last iteration.
Oh,
Tekken 8's great,
fighting games in
but
general. That's been my. I'm an arcade kid. I played
yeah,
so much original Killer Instinct and like it's any fighting game I could get my hands on. I played. I still absolutely love fighting games. The Killer
and those
Instinct
the one
remake they
Primal
made on
Rage.
Xbox 360 was good. And yeah, I do remember Primal Rage. Primal Rage was not a
Prime
good
Rage, yeah.
fighting game, but it was entertaining as fuck because you
Yeah.
could pee on
Yeah,
people, and that was
that
great.
was a great concept at least,
Yeah,
right? Like
Well,
it's fun
we
to
don't
watch.
get games
eat a
like
bunch
that
of
anymore.
humans and stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
just like eat some people,
Think about
fart
it.
on somebody. It's all good. That's
Yeah.
all Primal Rage was. I loved it.
Oh,
Oh yeah.
I've got a deep cut for you guys. SNES, the Beavis and Butthead game.
Oh yeah. I enjoyed the Sega Genesis.
Frustrating,
I enjoyed the
mad.
Sega Genesis one a little more though, because that was back when
fair
they
enough.
made two different versions per the console wars of Sega and Super Nintendo.
They're
And
slightly different, right?
yeah, and I really
Sega was
enjoyed that.
more family. And Sega was like, you could have blood and guts on Sega. Nintendo was like sweat. Every time somebody got hit, sweat flew off.
Yup.
Sega had like you hit them, the blood would fly off. It's like, man, you're only cool if you had Sega.
And they lost so much money. Super Nintendo lost a lot of sales on Mortal Kombat 1 for doing that, which is why Mortal Kombat 2 on Super Nintendo is still one of the best ports of that game because they said, fuck it, blood. No blood code, whatever it is. That's still one of the best ports of that game, is the Super Nintendo version. I mean, if you really want to go hard, I mean, obviously you can get an arcade perfect emulation. There's the MS-DOS version, which is still the superior in terms of the ports. But Super Nintendo was the best that you could get for like the common folk. Just have a console, play it. It's perfect.
Just talking about it, look into the Doom console Doom sometimes.
Oh yeah.
They're all different.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like a tier list of the ports.
Yeah.
And like I think the Sega one was the one they called Silent Doom,
Yes.
which was the best looking and playing one, but they didn't get any of the music.
None of the music. Nope. Nope. That was I think it was the Sega version did that. But this thing like
The
Doom.
Super Nintendo was like the worst one because
Yeah.
they couldn't process it.
id Software had
Since
had
we're
some
talking
issues with
about
it.
Sega real quick, how about this for Sega? Did you guys ever play the Sega Saturn?
Oh
I
yeah,
did.
I played Sega Saturn. Yes.
Sega Saturn. I wish the Sega Saturn was lived longer than what it did.
Mm-hmm.
It had good games on it. You had Nights in the Dreams. You
Yeah.
had Scud. Scud was
Mm-hmm.
fucking awesome. Crusader, Gun Griffin,
It
the
also
Virtual
had
Fighter series,
one of the it
Mighty
also
Bike
had a
Race.
unique version of Castlevania Symphony of the Night where you could play as Maria and as well as Alucard. So that was another one too that I liked Sega Saturn for. That said
Like Sega Saturn kind of came out at the worst time though,
yeah.
because that's around
Yeah.
when PlayStation was coming out and everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know how
PlayStation
many
won
games
that.
though that none of us probably have even heard of that are still available on PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2? Not even to mention the Japanese only titles, because there's a lot of games made in Japan that never got ported over here. That the poor UK got it worse than we did. We got a lot of the we didn't get the Final Fantasy until later, but they didn't get them until way later.
Mm-hmm.
Seven was their first one, so there's a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, and that's the kind of thing. It's just localizations. I mean, it's the thing. Gaming was like such a very. It wasn't even called gaming. It was the gaming. Video games were toys from the late '70s iteration, the bulk of
Yep.
the '80s, and majority of the '90s as well.
Well, that's
They
why
were
Nintendo still does them.
yeah,
They're for kids,
yeah,
right?
yeah. They
Yeah.
marketed it as like a toy because that's actually kind of how it saved gaming is that they had that whole video game crash and with the
Yep.
ET cartridges. So the only way they could market a home video game console again is they marketed it as a toy. They actually sold the Nintendo with Rob the Robot, and they were like, "It's a toy, so it won't be." But they also snuck Super Mario in there and Duck Hunt in there, and slowly started building momentum. And then Nintendo just took everything over in the late '80s. And now it's just looked at as like it's video gaming as a whole is
Right.
now bigger. I don't know if it's like monetarily bigger, but it's definitely
It
more
is.
entertaining than the movie industry. Maybe not the television industry. It used to be when I was a kid.
Well,
The movies are up here, then maybe television, then video games and music. Then like now it's video games are really up here in terms of production
right.
and attention to care. Television shows are like right there because TV is way better than movies, and no one goes to the movies anymore. You can just go get it at your house.
What you said though was true. About there was a gaming crash, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of that was to do with stuff at the time. Well, that was the first one. There was a second one that almost happened after Nintendo started putting its toys and stuff. The arcades were still going.
Mm-hmm.
So then the next generation, we were talking about PlayStation and the Sega Saturn. That was bringing the arcade experience home.
Mm-hmm.
That was the big push there.
Yeah.
And then, of course, gaming has gotten much more narrative, much more kind of artsy, like you were saying, with in some ways better quality than movies and TV. And then now big business has really taken over. As we've seen recent layoffs, recent big business stuff, takeovers, the industry is in such a weird spot right now.
Mm-hmm.
The only good thing about that is whenever the industry gets in this spot, from what we've seen in the past, is when indies really get noticed and new things come along. The last time this happened, Double Fine, came out of it, which I'm not a big fan of their games. They're good games. I just don't play them. But, people love Psychonauts. People love Double Fine games.
Oh, yeah. Psychonauts is a huge cult classic. I got a buddy that will talk your ear off about Psychonauts. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And with the indie titles coming out, I mean, indie titles have things that I've absolutely loved. I mean, like Hollow Knight is 2D Dark Souls. Blasphemous is very much 2D Dark Souls. Even your
Salt and Sanctuary, for example, is probably the closest 2D Dark
Salt
Souls.
and Sanctuary is
really close.
Yeah. But it's all that like really tough, just 2D version of like tough boss fights and exploration in a Metroidvania type of setting. And it's crazy to say that in terms of Metroidvanias, Castlevania Symphony of the Night used to be my all-time favorite in that genre. That was until I played Hollow Knight, and now I will always love Symphony of the Night, but Hollow Knight just took it to a different area. I mean,
but the only people that are taking risk on this stuff are indies, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, look at what you're playing right now. You're currently playing Disco Elysium, which is an indie, and
I'm enjoying it. Yeah.
And it's something completely. When I played it was completely out of left field. Going like, this is not a game where I have to swing a sword, shoot a gun, or do anything. No, it's literally like me in my head and just trying to figure out what's going on.
Bringing it back to Dark Souls, I'm pretty sure Demon Souls and Dark Souls 1 were more indie games. I can't say for sure on Dark Souls 1. I think they had a little bit of a budget on that one. But they were the underdog breakout series in that time frame.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, like nobody expected it to be as good as was.
Right.
Like
Right.
it was like the momentum started, and then it just kept building slower and then faster. The next thing you know, it's just this big success that
Yeah.
everybody's got their own version of it somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It's
Like
this
it
whole
just started off
genre,
so
right?
small.
It
Yeah,
in a lot of ways, I will say this, just in my brain, I want to see what you guys think about this. Roguelikes are big,
Yeah.
especially certain types, right? I really feel like Dark Souls is really based on roguelikes in a way.
Yeah.
Because Hollow Knight to me is more of a roguelike than a Souls game. The way it plays, the way the game plays and stuff. It's definitely difficult. But
Yes.
we've talked about this. I think it's more than difficulty. It definitely has a lot more Souls feeling to it with the way the story's told. I definitely think that's true. But I think Dark Souls owes some of its success to roguelikes because I think it builds a lot of its stuff from there and just furthers it. But only indies are going to take those risks
Mm-hmm.
and do those experimental things. Sadly, we don't see FromSoft doing as many experimental things as they used to because they are bigger. So there's once you get those expectations, that experimentation always seems to shriek out a little bit. But they're still making blockbuster games, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, any new creative IP in any medium, whether it's a new indie band, whether it's an indie horror movie, whether it's even the games that we're talking about right now, everything. Mario started out as an indie because it is literally like the first iteration of something brand new. We didn't know that this dude wearing a plumber's hat and a funny mustache jumping on like turtles is going to be anything more than just this weird novelty, and it's the biggest thing of all time. Marty's been going on for like 40 plus years now. So
yeah. He
everything kind of
started off
starts
in a
somewhere.
Donkey Kong game.
Yeah, exactly. He
Yeah.
wasn't even. You kind of play as. Well, no, I don't know if you play as the antagonist in Donkey Kong, but it's just it's just this weird thing. It's called Donkey Kong, but like you're just this know nothing dude.
Perspective.
Perspective, exactly.
Jump Man,
Perspective. Like honestly, cause how many people even know who Pauline was?
Yeah, they didn't really give Pauline any type of character or anything until I think Mario Odyssey. She like actually popped up,
Killed
and
him.
I only know that until I only know that because my son started playing Mario Odyssey when we got a Switch like 2 years ago. So
Yeah.
you know, so there she is. Pauline's a nothing character, you know.
Oh, well, we played when I was younger. I played the Galaxies on the GameCube, right? And I don't play many Mario games because I skipped the Wii and a lot of that. But Mario 64 was the first 3D platformer to really show how it should be done.
Mm-hmm.
And it spawned what we were talking about earlier, the mascot 3D platformers. That was huge for a long time, right?
Oh,
You
yeah.
had Crash Bandicoot, Spiral, a couple failed times, Gek, which got decently popular, but I don't know what happened with them. I think the company, the developer, had some issues. These were a whole genre. That was what was big. And then, then we get in a little further, and then everything was modern warfare and competitive shooters, and then everything was racing games for a couple of years, and then now everything's open world
Mm-hmm.
or games as service, looter shooters,
Yeah.
Fortnite, that kind of thing. It really goes through a lot of stages. I'll be glad if we ever get to a point to where it's not so. This is a big type of game for 3 years, and every company's making it, and we get just settle it out where there's Souls games, there's roguelikes, there's racing games, and everything kind of has its own little groove, and we can enjoy them all without it being only this for 5 years.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's like, well, it's weird. There's so many different types of genres when it comes to games and IPs and ways that you can interject your brain into something. I never thought that I'd like cowboys and westerns until I played Red Dead. I do like sci-fi, but I wasn't a huge fan of it until I played other games in that genre. And even though like my preferred, even though I can go into those worlds very, very deep, like Grand Theft Auto and all that kind of stuff, my preferred always goes back to traditional dark fantasy D&D. I mean, D&D and video games are, they would not, video games would not exist without D&D because D&D created the mathematic, calculation. Hey, roll this, blah, blah, stats.
Specifically for that type of game, yeah.
Exactly. And so that's why it kind of goes so well. But I've played so many games and have consumed so much movies and television. Everybody's watched Game of Thrones and Harry Potter's and all this kind of stuff. Everything in this like fantasy genre that there's not really many new stories or new ways to tell it. And when something comes along like a Dark Souls, like an Elden Ring, that the even going back and playing Demon Souls, it for some reason it feels like I've fought big minotaurs or giant cyclops or other warrior rogues and whatever it is. it felt very fresh to me playing every one of those games, which is why I think as long as they can still make that happen, it doesn't feel super saturated or just like you're just churning out another thing. Like I had big problems with Final Fantasy 16 because it just felt like they were trying to make Game of Thrones in Final Fantasy land, and that's why I just noped out of it. It's so as long as they don't do stuff like that, I'm right there for it because
It's funny you say that because that's literally what the developer said they were doing.
yeah,
They were making Game of Thrones.
yeah, and that's probably why it flopped because it wasn't a good Final Fantasy game and it wasn't a good Game of Thrones game.
Well, I mean, a lot of people do like it, to be fair. But I mean, a lot of people liked 13 as well. And generally,
Yes.
though, the main group of people who played Final Fantasy didn't.
Yeah.
And the game wasn't for me. Final
Mhm.
Fantasy 13 wasn't. I wasn't the target audience. In
Mhm.
my opinion, they were targeting a specific audience with that game, and I was not it, and that's okay.
I like 13. 13 and then 13-2 and Lightning Returns. I really like Lightning Returns. That one was very fun. I like the whole concept that your whole time limit thing. You'll have so much time to kill
That gives me
certain
so
amount
much
of
anxiety. I
You know,
couldn't play
but
the
that
first
was
Dead
that was
Rising
part
because
of
of
the thrill
that.
to it. Like
you,
that was part of my thrill for it because it's like you actually had a time limit, you know? It was you have to start doing it this way, get as much done as you can, and then when you fail, you fail. And you go back and you do it again. You try and do it again, see if you can do it better. And then instead of just making you like restart completely, you still got to kept like items and stuff like that. And it's like you basically got to
Yeah.
reset as like if it actually went back in time, but you still get everything that you were dealing with. And so you learn from your mistakes and then you improved on it until you finally actually beat the game.
Well, that's
And
how
I
games
actually
like
really enjoyed
Majora's
that.
Mask worked, right? It's pretty much the same
Yeah,
thing.
that's kind of what it was. It was like Majora's Mask from Final Fantasy, like more Final Fantasy. But fuck Snow. Snow is so good.
Yeah, understood.
it's funny, like you bring. I wasn't expecting you to say Final Fantasy 13 was one that you really liked, but then again, and it's nothing against it. I didn't expect you to tell me when you told me that you liked Persona 4 as your favorite game.
That is my favorite game of all time.
Yeah,
Second favorite game. Super Mario is first, but Persona 4,
Well, it just
that
goes to
game,
show, right?
yeah, like that and Persona
When
5,
you
I
experience a
really
game,
enjoy those games
you can change it.
because it's like an RPG and even though it's like a set character that you're playing as, it's still you basically.
yeah,
You're still making the choices of who you want to be in better relationship with. The RPG mechanics are still fun. You still go in and do turn-based combat and stuff. And it's got a fun turn-based combat. I enjoyed it. Storytelling was just amazing. The music, they throw the music in where you actually feel certain ways for certain scenes. Like if it's happy times, they got the happy music playing. If it's sadder times, they got sadder music playing. Like you feel for each character because you personally get to learn about each character and how they improve on themselves. Like
yeah,
you basically see them at their worst, and then you see how they improve upon it. Like they're like how you meet people in real life. You see them at a certain point in their life. And you can either see the worst of them or you can see the best of them, but you see them progress as you become more familiar with them. And those relationships affect like certain personas that you can summon and stuff. Like it actually affects things in games. If you have like every girl is your girlfriend, there's a scene where they all catch on and they get mad at you and stuff. Or if you just have one certain girl that you like that you feel more attached to, you get special times with them. It's like no matter how many times you replay that game, you can replay it in a different kind of way. And every time we play it, I'm still just as excited as the first time we played it.
yeah.
I still enjoyed like how the music gives me like a whole feeling with everything. Like there's a song for Persona 5. It's called Beneath the Mask. It's like a really chill, dun, 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 dun. And then like you'll have the background with the rain, and it's just relaxing, and it helps me just stay focused. Like keeps me calm the whole time. I'll play that on hours at least, and then just get work done, and it's like nothing ever happened.
Yeah.
But there's, when you get to the fight music, like some of the boss music, there's one called Rivers in the Sun. It gets you fucking pumped. And it's like, all right, cool, I gotta beat this guy, and you just pump the whole time. Like it mixes every emotion to where it really belongs. Basically, if something bad's happening, you got music that's kind of giving you suspense about it. If there's something good happening, there's great music going with that. If somebody doesn't, you don't like this person more than another person, or if you have better relationships with, and Five Pablo per se, she'll come more out of her show. You like learning more about every character and going through all those different emotions. Kind of just like once you're done with it, it's like they give you that good send off at the end, where it's like you go back to wherever you came from, and it's like you actually like, oh man, I'm gonna miss these guys, and then you play it again, and then you just go through it all over again.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been wanting to play Persona 5 Royale for a while now, but I don't know if I'd be able to. I mean, after playing the lengthy grind of Final Fantasy Rebirth, I don't know if I want to do that on stream to myself again.
It'll take a long time. Trust
That's what
me.
I hear.
Yeah, like
Don't
it's
worry, Jen. We'll
guaranteed
get
at
to
least
it.
80 hours, at least 80 hours.
Well, and that's the thing too. We were talking about Dark Souls. We ended up talking about the industry and games in general, and I think that's one of the things is I could have liked 13 amazingly, right? If I would have played it at the right time. And everybody has their own preferences for these different games. Persona, fine game. I haven't been able to push myself through any of them because of the time commitment they take.
Yeah.
But when I was 14 and I had nothing but time, I probably would have loved them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it comes down to. Is like you got to be able to dedicate that time into it.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of us, I think you do and I do, feel this way about 17 because of the time we played it when it came out. I'm a little younger, but I was behind on systems, on consoles. So I played Final Fantasy VII after it had already been out for a couple of years, about the same age that I think you and Lore played it. And I don't know about you, Bees, but when you play this stuff matters, right? We and Karth talked about this off of any stream, just talked about it. The way Rebirth was made, it's made like a 90s game, like you imagined it when you were playing it in the 90s, right?
Oh
It's
yeah.
very specific in the way it's made. So it's not going to hit everybody the same. People can enjoy it, but it's just not going to hit the same to people who weren't playing the original in the 90s.
Yeah, because I played it back in '97 when it first came out. So it's like one of those games that's like it's part of my growing up with gaming type of thing. Because I was only about like 8 or 9 when it came out. And I went through that whole game hours at a time. Even fell for the little tricks like, oh, you could bring Eris back, and that was
Yeah, you
fucking
told
nice.
us.
Like that's a fucking lie and a half. But like
No, but
going
look
through it,
at where the internet was at that time too, and that has something to
yeah,
do.
yeah.
That's how
So,
media works. It's very dependent on the time it's made and
Mm-hmm.
how much
there's a lot of us
big
we
business
were
has.
gullible about it. So we believed everything that we were told. We're like, all right, cool. We just got to do like 6 backflips. How do you do a backflip in this game? Shit like that. And then you hear like other people talk about game sharks and stuff, and it's like, well, game sharks are basically breaking the code. So and that's
At
kind of
that
true to
time, you
me.
could
Yeah, you can do it through game shark.
look into a video for me, guys. Later, different. Just I'm curious what you think about this. I watched a video on a glitch that happens on the PC version of Final Fantasy VII, the newer one, not modded. This was the port they made later. About there's a glitch that in a certain area Cloud will get huge and upside down. And the coding that causes this error is just hilarious. You check out the videos on YouTube sometime. Just look it up. You type into Google, it'll pop right up. I just wonder what y'all think about that.
What this cloud glitch?
Yeah, yeah. Watch the video and get back with me sometime if you get the time. It's hilarious. Just why it works that way because you were talking about coding, and that's why coding could be broken so easily.
Oh yeah.
Emulation the same way. It's so easy to emulate, say, the Game Boy Advance.
Oh yeah.
We're just now getting to where you can emulate a 360. But I remember when I was really into emulation,
Yeah.
because I owned the games. I want to point that out. Owned the games uh, that you couldn't emulate 360, PS2 barely,
Mm-hmm.
and now I think that stuff is available a lot.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Emulations again. You said it before. I mean, and I echo the same sentiment. Where yeah, it's the emulation is really what's doing all the heavy lifting for preserving all these games and things like that. And of course, yes, to play it on original hardware, sure, that would be amazing, but that's not always available, especially with all this price gouging and everything in the retro game market. But I am always infinitely impressed with how far we've come with emulation. I mean, we can emulate PS4 and things like that now. I mean, you can emulate pretty much a lot now with a lot of these bigger systems. And for
Well, a
me
lot has
to
PC ports now too. So
exactly, yeah. I mean, just like I have my computer, I have my other computer, but I also have a Raspberry Pi 3 and a Raspberry Pi 4. And what the Raspberry Pi 4 can, I mean, a Raspberry Pi 4 can emulate PSP and Dreamcast games. Like that has always been insane to me. That this little chip that's only like $100, just put it in a case and boom, SD card in it, and you're good to go. So I mean, yes, I and I've always said this. I would pay subscription service if the developers of these games just decided to take the care that the modding community and the emulation community are taking. I would just pay. I wouldn't care. I just want to play those games. I don't give a shit. I just want to play them. So if it's not going to be the option from the developers, then I'm going to have to take certain legal means to do them. And I'm always infinitely impressed with what we can do with emulation and what we can improve upon with all of these systems that we now have.
modding is very interesting.
Yeah, I'm huge
Elden
into
Ring's a
modding. I love
perfect
modding.
example on this, by the way. I've not gotten into the modding community of Elden Ring because I've just gotten back into the game and getting ready for the DLC. And then, of course, you have the community that does. There's a modding community. I know of a guy on YouTube that has made 101 spells.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Incantations in a mod for, yeah. I'm not affiliated with him anyway. If you watch a lot of his videos, he has a lot of good stuff. It's Rusty over on YouTube. He's mostly a tier list YouTuber. He makes a lot of videos, but he made 101 new spells for Elden Ring for a mod.
Yeah,
that's something I'm interested in just checking out.
Yeah,
because sometimes these developers literally just don't have the time to polish everything as much as they'd like to.
Oh, absolutely.
The modding community
There's people
can
that have like complete overhauls of these games too. Like you got the Archstone's one that came out for Dark Souls 3.
Yep.
They completely just redid the whole game altogether.
It took Dark Souls 1, I believe, and then a lot of stuff from Demon Souls, right?
It was like Dark Souls 2, Dark Souls 3, and Demon Souls and Sekiro. There's also like a posture system.
The demo for that is out.
Does.
Yeah.
And the demo's out, which is like still 3 bosses, and it's going to be massive, and it's just fan made. It's like YouTubers that are in there as voice actors, like Body's in there as one of the bosses.
Oh hell
the
yeah!
Guy I just talked about did an interview with the lead director of this because it went from being a pure modding indie thing to almost a project of several people working together. It's a good interview that talks about a lot of the stuff they're going through. I know the demo is out now, and that they're going to put a little bit more into the demo, I think, before the full release. But even if that's not, a FromSoft game technically, and even though that it's, some people can argue that they're stealing because they use a lot of assets from Dark Souls 2 and 3 and stuff. It's just a nice little project that we can get excited about.
Yeah. They've done stuff like this over the years. I'm a big fan of Chrono Trigger on Super Nintendo, and there was a fan project to make that into a fully 3D version a la Final Fantasy 7, 8, and 9 that got shut down by the developers. And it's things like that I think I remember it was I think it was Sega that did this for the Sonic fan project where they just said, "You did all this work, we're just going to hire you to do it." And I wish more developers took note of this because a game that I always love to mod, which I'm actually currently modding and trying to get it ready for one of my next streams, is Grand Theft Auto San Andreas on PC, which is a huge modding.
And a lot of the mods are just quality of life mods.
Quality of life,
you just
exactly.
Want to play the game,
yes,
but it's not going to work well. Like
exactly.
A perfect example is I know a lot of people are with the Fallout series out. A lot of people are streaming Fallout 3 and 4. It is almost impossible to get through Fallout 3 and 4 to work on Windows 11 right now. It's easier to buy an Elgato and stream it from your Xbox 360 or your PS4.
Oh, wow.
It's very hard to get them to work. If you go to a site and buy legally the PC version of Fallout 3, it does not want to open on Windows 11. If you use the Game Pass version, it does not want to stream correctly. Really? I'm sure there's ways to fix it, but you'd have to go in and mod it to be able to do it. Gladia, was doing a lot of Fallout 4. It's been crashing on her. She can't get it to work. And a lot of people have had this issue of trying to get these games to work on new PCs to stream. It's almost easier to go back to the old consoles they were on to stream.
I wonder if Skyrim is still like that. It's another Bethesda game that's
I think
huge in the
Skyrim
modding.
has had so many ports that it's a
Yeah,
lot easier.
actually, yeah, you're probably right about that one. Yeah,
And it had official mod support, which was huge.
yeah, and that's the thing. It's
Be
one of
around for the next 40 years.
yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah, they'll release Skyrim on your refrigerator soon. But
It's a pretty-
Yeah,
Make
But-
that joke. I've seen people put Doom on all kinds of stuff.
oh yeah, I've seen that. But that's the thing. When it comes to like modding these games and preserving these games and all that kind of stuff. I mean the games that we're talking about here. But again, we're just asking for like some of these things to just be available and readily accessible. I started streaming because I just wanted to share games that I love with other people
Right.
that are like minded. That's actually how I met a lot of you guys and other people in my community and in your communities as well. That I just want to share these things. And when it becomes a chore just to get the game that I already own to be able to be streamed, or even just an updated version just to make it a little bit prettier, to kind of just gussy it up a little bit. It is incredibly difficult that these developers have not taken that step to make it. I mean, me modding San Andreas right now, which is one of the things that I've been doing for a long time, and I just started doing it again for the first time in a while. It really shows just how much some of these developers like. Some of them care, some of them don't. And as much as I love Grand Theft Auto and Rockstar Games, they don't give a fuck about the community. They just care about making money. They really do. Because if you look at how the Definitive Edition flopped so horribly and how everyone just vehemently opposes the Definitive Edition versus the 20-year-old port of San Andreas modded is so much better looking. It's better. It's more stable. It's all the things that you want. You just have to put time into making it look that way. And it's something that I just don't understand, that they don't just hire these people to do it for you, and just you have the money, just do it, and you'd be much better.
Here's the sad fact: if these people are going to do it for free, why would you hire them? Unless you can make a lot of money off of it. But most of these big companies don't want to take these risks, and that's where we're in now. We're in a stagnant industry to where companies don't want to take risks, to where it's all about acquisition,
Exactly,
and making as much money as you can.
It's a
with as
business.
little work as possible. Yeah, but businesses always have that line, right? And I think a lot of people miss this. There's businesses, small businesses, that take care of their customers, right? Customer service, the way they do things. But there's always that point in business where when it's always about getting as much as you can out of it and you don't care what you have to sacrifice, that's why we have government laws to keep people from dumping nuclear waste in a river. Because if you let a company do it, they're going to do it.
Oh yeah,
They do it all over the world already.
yeah,
And that's the problem. It's when the business overrides everything else. And that's where the game industry is right now. From my perspective, I could be wrong, but from what I've seen, I think you guys agree, it's all about the dollar. We've seen Suicide Squad. We've seen these games and services trying to milk every dollar. We've seen everybody try to be Fortnite because it's a money-making machine. And we've seen the care that they have not given to other things because they don't care. And then the only time that's going to matter is when people prove to them that matters to them and that they're not going to pay for it, unless that's taken care of.
yeah, exactly.
It's the children who are wrong, Tin.
Yeah. That's what it comes down to. It's just who can make the most money quickest, basically.
Oh yeah,
Suicide Squad, their whole player base dropped within a month, didn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like they
And this
dropped
is,
by a whole bunch.
I mean, look at
And
No Man's Sky. Them guys did the right thing.
Yeah.
People considered them, because people were used to people like Todd Howard lying, and people assumed that they were doing the same thing, that they were taking us for a ride. But no, they fixed their game. They gave it to people for free. They said, this is what you paid for. Yeah, you had to wait a year for it, but here you go. You paid for this. This is what you're getting. And now that company is getting a lot of accolades for that, right?
oh yeah,
And hopefully their next project will be a boost because they did that work.
yeah. Another one is CD Projekt Red. They had so many accolades for making Witcher 3, and everyone still is like, oh, Witcher 3, Witcher 3. They make Cyberpunk, and it was such a huge, colossal failure. And now Cyberpunk is kind of like it's one of the hardest things to run on PC, but it's actually fixed now, and it's really good. So
fun as hell. I played that world after all the updates and stuff. It's
Yep.
a lot of
I'm
fun.
going to do that soon.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like compared to way it was when it first came out. Like NPCs glitching, whole areas not loading, shit just falling around everywhere, and now the game just runs so smooth and crisp, and the way the gameplay goes. Like I had a blast playing that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and from what I've seen, I haven't played it yet, but from what I've seen, yeah, I definitely would like to get into Cyberpunk as well. I mean, again, my catalog is long with everything I want to play
Yeah.
with my
That's actually
time.
on my list probably after Disco. I'm
Mm,
going to continue trying to do this to where I do the, one game kind of RPG-ish for the community.
yeah.
I might split it with like a shorter action game that's going to last 10, 15 hours, but then
Hmm.
Cyberpunk's the next big one 'cause that's what my community, which you guys are part of, voted for.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for me, it's still going to be Elden Ring, and probably Elden Ring's probably going to carry me through the DLC, probably through the summer. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be playing a
Yeah,
lot
I
of
mean,
that.
I'm going to definitely be doing that. I know, I'm just going to throw this out to you guys. Um, we'll see how things go on my end. As of course, I want to do other things too, but I know that a friend of ours is doing probably going to do where people get together on his stream and do some level 1 runs, and I'm thinking about joining him with that, and as well as doing some challenge runs or lore runs
Hmm.
in the future. It's a lot of there's just so many games to play and so many things you can go back in the Dark Souls games, since that's what kind of we were talking about. You can do
Yeah.
in all of them. I've still got
Hmm.
Dark Souls 2, 3. I know you guys. I know you beat them all. I don't think you're gonna do 2 Bs. You might if we talk you into it. I know you're gonna do 2.
Actually, yeah, two's the only one I haven't played.
Yeah.
It's the only one I never played.
So you ought to do it. I know me and Pro are gonna do 2. I'm actually gonna try to save my 2 for when he does his. That way we can kind of have a parallel
I'd like to do that
experience.
too. That's the thing. I wanted to play. That's the thing. I wanted to knock out the Dark Souls trilogy this
Right.
year, but then there's also Elden Ring.
And the DLC, right?
Yeah, the DLC. There's also I really wanted to try to play Lies of P for Halloween
Same.
just because it feels like that time to do it. But then, yes, there is a Dark Souls 2.
Believe it or not,
There
they didn't
is.
skip 2 and go straight to 3. A lot of people think that's what they did.
But
Two
the other thing is like I still wanted to get back to doing the Grand Theft Auto catalog before 6 comes out, which I know that's going to be a huge game when it comes out for my channel. So I mean there's a lot going on. There's also like a couple indie games that I really wanted to play, and there's also
Yeah.
I wanted to do just indie random stream games. There Karthus and Jew Macon also want me to play Lethal Company and Phasmos. There's so
Right.
many different
Same.
like you know things. I might have to regulate a night for like maybe Wednesdays is the time to just play random shit, but then FromSoft Fridays we go back to FromSoft Fridays, and then Mondays we just kind of
Then I
wrap
got
up.
this whole Rocksmith thing I do right now too, which is a
Exactly. I
whole
was in your
night.
stream
So,
for a while, and that was really fun. It's very similar to Lore Stream, but it's with
yeah.
Rocksmith, which I really enjoy. So that's really good to see that.
Well, especially if you like the music,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But
The song requests are a lot easier on yours. I'll say that.
they are, and
Yeah.
I think that's just the system they
Yeah.
set up.
Their
But
system's a little weird.
I know Lore had a lot of trouble with that song. The only problem is if somebody didn't go charted, it's not on there. But if somebody took the time to do a bass chart for a rap song, there's a bunch of bass charts for rap songs on there. For example, if you're into that,
That's
don't have a
cool.
bass right now, but I'm going to accumulate that into it later. Country songs. Some people like country songs. They have a couple.
There's nothing wrong with country. I mean, the poppy country or like the typical twangy country is meh.
I got a couple
I
Alan
like
Jackson songs on there.
yeah. Yeah, there's any. It's just like with any. I like any genre as long as it's done well, and even if it's not, even if it's done well and I don't like it, I can still appreciate it.
Well, for me, I don't know about you guys, but I'm probably going to have to split out here in the next 5 minutes. I got to
Same.
be done. So, any final notes from you guys on Dark Souls?
Play them. They're good games.
Yes. I
Worth
would
going back.
highly recommend for anyone who's on the fence about playing any
Yes.
FromSoft game, try them. Maybe not start with Sekiro or Dark Souls 2.
No.
No,
Uh,
for sure.
I really think Elden Ring is the best start because one, it's more open.
Hmm.
It's more knowledge is out about it too.
Yeah.
Be aware that it's still a Souls game, but it's considered the easiest one, and it is in a lot of ways. It can be the hardest one. Some of the bosses in there are harder, than except for Sekiro. Obviously, Sekiro's the hardest bosses, but that's a different conversation.
Yeah, Dark Souls 1 parry window is very forgiving, so that's another thing I found out. So
yeah.
Going back to Elden, I was like, oh, it doesn't just have, I can't just swing on Monday and it parries on Tuesday.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well, you
play
can
them.
get parries in Elden
I
Ring that do
I would
that.
say, yeah, start with Dark Souls 1 because that's basically the introduction for
Yeah.
all of it. You can start with Demon Souls, probably start with Demon Souls, but
I would
Dark Souls
say
1 is definitely the one you start with.
for most people, Elden Ring, maybe you don't beat Elden Ring, but try it out, get used to stuff. And then Demon Souls, in my opinion, was way easier
Mm,
than the others. It's not as good. Obviously, the story isn't
yeah,
good, the lore isn't as good.
not as good.
But I think if you're just trying to get used to the world and the way FromSoft works, if you've been a person, like you said, on the fence for all this time and you haven't already dipped your toe in, maybe try out Elden Ring. And then if you want to go back to the old ones, start with Demon Souls and go through. If you have a PS5, Demon Souls is on there. Pretty easy to get. You might even start with it.
Yeah. I would probably say that if it depends on where you're at, but if you're more of a casual gamer, like if you're someone like, you play 2K and Call of Duty and you want to try them out, Elden Ring's probably the easier introduction. But if you're someone who does just appreciate challenge and things, you can start with any of the big three, which is Dark Souls 1, Elden Ring, or Bloodborne. I think any of those three are a really good entry point. And the only reason I wouldn't say Sekiro is just because I haven't played it, but it's notoriously the one that is like, it's good, but it's very hard. In fact, they actually say play all the other games just to prepare for Sekiro is what they always said.
I don't know, like the way I see it, Sekiro is a different kind of game, but it's not as hard to master as everybody would like to say. Like once you get the concept and you're able to, like the way I did it is I actually switched my attack to my deflect button because my right hand is it goes quicker like that, right? So I found that if I would just use this for my deflect, it made the game a lot easier.
I've heard
Like,
I've heard this, that if you ignore the game in a way and just treat it as a rhythm game and then just kind of focus in on the rhythm triggers and play it like a rhythm game, it becomes a lot easier. But
Yeah.
kind of.
I haven't played it.
There's some of them that they're like you just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Like you count it out as you're doing it, and it'll go with it while you're doing it. 10, 10, 10, 10. Like you just gotta learn the. It's basically a tape.
Huh,
Like
yeah.
I don't find it difficult to learn. I just find that like maybe at first it's hard to learn because you're not getting used. You're just sitting there just mashing the button down. You're not like trying to do timing. Like if you get timings down, then you should be fine with that game. So wonder, Crawdaddy will beat it yet?
He beat the boss and he was going back to the couple optional bosses he missed last time I looked.
Yeah.
Well, that's but that's it for me, guys. I really appreciate y'all coming in and talking to me about Dark Souls. Letting me come to your channel, Pro. I really appreciate you.
Oh yeah, anytime. You guys are always welcome, man. This was great. You guys are awesome, and yeah, we'll all see each other again real soon.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and head out so you can do your outro.
Anyway.
Alrighty, guys. Wow, what a great content that was. Did you guys have fun watching that? I had a lot of fun talking about it. And I'll tell you this, if you enjoyed that content, just like I did, just like Beazers did, and just like Magesight did, maybe you'll like this content right over here. And hey, if you like that content, then you might like this playlist where I played all of Dark Souls 1 for the very first time, completely blind, and I had a blast! And if you also really like this content, you can click up here to subscribe to the channel. Other than that, I'll see all of you guys in church on Wednesday night. Take care!